Christy, can you go live at 1 o'clock?
Sure thing. I'll start now.
Mr. Chair, right at 1 p.m. We have several of our commissioners still joining.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. We're going to give them a few more minutes, and then we'll start our meeting.
Hey, Albert.
Hey.
Hey, I want to say something about the property managers and the navigators, if I get about 3 minutes.
Yeah, so I'll give you, I'll acknowledge you during the meeting.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Alicia, let me know when you think we have a quorum. For those of you joining us, if you can put your devices on mute, that will help facilitate a smooth meeting. We welcome you. We want to have you here. We also want to hear ourselves. Pat, I wasn't singling you out, Miss Malloy.
Hi, Commissioner Albert. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful.
Good to see you.
Mr. Chair, we do have a quorum on if you'd like to get started. I know we still have a few commissioners that will be joining us.
Are you saying that you'd like me to get started? Alicia, is that what you're saying?
Ask for me to let you know when we have a quorum, and we do have a quorum.
Ah, got it. Thank you very much.
You're
All right, well,
welcome.
good afternoon, everyone. My name is Neil Albert, and I am Chairman of the Board of Commissioners of the DC Housing Authority. I call this meeting to order. It's 1:01 p.m. by my clock. This is the regular monthly meeting of the District of Columbia Housing Authority, being held today, May 12, 2021. This meeting is being held via WebEx video conferencing. I'm hoping that in the near future, we will be able to reconvene in person, perhaps in some sort of a limited capacity before the end of this year. But stay tuned for more information on that. I'm going to remind everyone on the call in this meeting, please, if you're not speaking, please ensure that you place your devices on mute. And when it's your turn to speak, you can just press *6 to unmute your device. As is our custom every month, I'm going to ask you to join me in observing a moment of silence. Thank you very much. So today's agenda, as I said, is a regular agenda. We're going to, as usual, invite speakers of the public to testify. You can also view our meeting on our website and through Facebook Live. So please, I know you've become accustomed to doing that by now. I'm going to also ask you to observe our normal meeting decorum, as you always do, or most of you always do. So I appreciate that this time around. At this time, I'm going to ask our secretary to establish a quorum.
Thank you. Commissioner Council.
Present.
Commissioner Falchecchio, Commissioner Hoffman,
Here.
Commissioner Ortiz-Gallo.
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Slover,
Present.
Commissioner Strickland. Thank you. Commissioner Talaferro.
Hey.
Thank you. Commissioner Van Gossary. Commissioner Bussey Reeder. I'll circle back. Commissioner Falchecchio. Commissioner Van Gossary. Chairman Albert.
Present.
Commissioner, Mr. Chair, you have 7 commissioners present. You have a quorum.
Great, thank you so much. So the next item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes of the April 14, 2021 Board of Commissioners meeting minutes. They were presented in your board material earlier. I would like commissioners to find out if there are any questions or changes to the minutes that were presented.
None.
Hearing no changes from our commissioners, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion.
Motion.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion is seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you so much. Next, we will hear from our Executive Director, Mr. Garrett.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, members of the Board of Commissioners and members of the public who have joined us today. I hope everyone is taking care of themselves and still healthy and safe as we come towards, it looks like, the end of the pandemic, as the mayor moves to remove restrictions within the district. So that's really important, and that's something that I'm going to touch on today. I'm going to get off with something that's on a positive note for the agency, and we're going to do something, really unique for this particular executive director's report, because it is the 6-month mark within the fiscal year. So I'm going to allow Tony to lead us off with a quick video that some of you may or may not have seen from yesterday.
Okay, Hubert, do you have that queued up? All right, let me share my screen.
Okay. Tony, are you able to get it?
Yeah, it's coming in just a second. Here we go.
Cool. No audio, Tony. Okay, I'm going to have to just give a narrative to this. So yesterday, Commissioners, Fox 5, along with other media outlets, attended an opening of the command center and also our customer solutions center here at the headquarters. If you recall, this was the opportunity for us to utilize our ATP, Modified Apprentice Training Program, to provide skills and opportunities for them to build out. And it came at a great time, because during the pandemic, we were making and thinking about how we would recreate return to workspace. And the opportunity for Command Center was always on my radar screen from 2017, but we had never had the opportunity to be able to fully create the space, because the building being occupied in such a manner, and also, lack of a team to be able to dedicate to do it. So it was an opportunity for us yesterday to basically unveil that in conjunction with MPD, who was present. And we went over the CCTV system with you, along with the automated workforce deployment system, in addition to many of you have seen the kiosks in the Customer Solution Center, and also the workspace at the Housing Choice Voucher Department for the return to work. So that was what was highlighted yesterday in the news media, which is a positive. And I think you would be proud of what we were able to accomplish yesterday with putting that out to the public as a whole.
Jared, I apologize. Christine is going to share a screen so folks can hear the audio. I don't know why my audio is not.
Okay.
Hey, we seem to still have the same problem.
Same problem. Okay.
We'll circulate it to everybody.
Okay, thank you. We'll get that out to you, commissioners, if you haven't already seen it. But I do appreciate the fact that we had representation from MPD along with our chief, Chief Maupin, and Deputy Chief Dixon here with us. So, today is going to be a little bit different in terms of report, as I said, because it does mark six-month mark within the fiscal year. So please indulge me, because the staff has put a lot of time and effort and work into putting this together. And it today actually marks the 51st time that I will actually give an executive director's report. Our agency is what Robert Frost referred to as two roads diverged by yellow wood. Two paths that are in front of us of our agency, and one will provide tremendous opportunities to improve the lives of the residents that we serve. We can confidently say that the road less traveled will be the one producing the outstanding results. Depending on who you ask, the expectations for the authority and the things that we have achieved over the last 2 years may differ, but the true reality is that we have made great strides. Residents, commissioners, staff, and stakeholders, I truly appreciate the consecutive and constructive feedback you have given us and guided us with, especially in this fiscal year of 21, for the performance measures that were given to the agency and the staff. Today, I want to emphasize our performance for the first 6 months of that fiscal year, but I also want to make sure that everyone understands that it has been an extraordinary year under the pandemic, under COVID. And Natasha, I think you can just go ahead and start the slide presentation, and it'll enlarge. I'm sorry, commissioners, this always happens. We always have technical difficulties. So Natasha, if you go up from the beginning to your left, right there. Yes, hit that. Thanks. Okay. Cool. Thank you very much. Okay. But in going in and talking about this particular performance year, I just want to take a step back and highlight how we arrived here. And I want to do that just because we do have a few new commissioners, and there may be some members of the public who aren't aware of where we actually started back in 2017 when I took over the agency. I'll go back and finish off with what we have done over the last fiscal year, at least the 6 months, and then talk about what the vision for the agency will be in the future. So please indulge me. We don't do this very often in terms of an executive director's report, but I just want to take a little more time today because we don't have any resolutions to put forward. So in my opinion, the state of the agency from my vantage point as chief executive director, a chief executive officer, is strong. All transformations must follow a form of recognition, and that is called what many people in the educational realm call the recognition paradigm. And simply stated, there will always be a length of time between recognizing and making a decision. There will be a length of time between making that decision and creating a solution. There will be a length of time between the solution and the actual action. And finally, a length of time between the action and its true impact. Simply put, changing the game does take time. I would be delusional if I did not realize we've experienced some challenges, some major challenges within the organization over the last 3 years. But what organization hasn't? What administration, corporation, or even book club for that matter, transitions easily into new leadership? Now we are living in a time of extraordinary events of a pandemic and social unrest, which is reshaping the way we live, communicate, interact, and the way we work. At DCHA, changing the game rests on everyone, our commissioners, myself as the CEO, and all the stakeholders who are interested in the success of our residents. Where we position ourselves on change makes all the difference. I unequivocally stand with our residents in an effort to improve conditions, increase affordable housing for the most vulnerable, broaden self-sufficiency initiatives, and eliminate inequality. The pace at which I've set will only continue to accelerate. My team will tell you that I operate at warp speed. That's the only way I know how to move, and I put a lot of pressure on everyone. And for me, I've seen results over the last 25 years in public service. The residents have demanded a lot, and that's the reason why I want to move so quickly. And they should demand a lot from us. They should demand a lot from their representatives at the DCHA, each individual staff person. And I appreciate that they expect more out of me and my team on a daily basis, because we serve more than 25,000 families, and they definitely deserve it. The reality is, we have heard the hue and cry, and we want to meet their suppositions. Again, I will be the first to acknowledge that we are not perfect, but I've always acted ethically in my decision-making on behalf of the agency. I did not expect to take a helm of a perfect agency, but an organization with the potential to lead others. When you considered me for this job, I emphasized my goal was to transform my agency in a way never seen before. I communicated to you, our workforce, that my tenure at DCHA would take place with integrity, accountability, responsibility, and would be measured by actual performance. First, integrity. When I reference integrity, what I mean is I wanted to establish systems that were transparent. Transparent in recruitment. An example would be, bringing on, individuals that I have actually had the opportunity to interview, to make sure that they understood what the agency was looking to accomplish. It also means utilizing processes that increase the efficiencies of agency-wide systems from my finance department, technology, personnel, and also operations. So our new Voyager system that we're using, we have, for the most part, switched completely over to that in the Office of Finance. Our OPS Command Center and our cameras is another example of utilizing systems and technology to our fullest. It also means protecting our cybersecurity infrastructure. And some of these things that I might talk about are things that you would not even know was actually occurring within the organization, because they're behind the curtain. There are things that are actually happening on a daily basis that we don't talk about or we don't promote, because we have blinders on, knowing that there is another task right behind it. And sometimes that can be a detriment to an organization the size of DCHA, and an organization where, in the past hasn't necessarily been seen in the best light by the individuals that we serve. So at times we need to promote many of the things that we're talking about and that we're doing. Our cybersecurity and infrastructure technology systems have actually been very, very helpful, because we've pushed back against malicious attacks. And so we have done that through phishing expeditions within the organization to ensure that that doesn't take place, and none of our information or I'm not as technically sound with it, but our vital information, such as social security numbers, resident information, isn't compromised or held captive by anyone trying to extort funding or anything like that from us for that financial data to be given back. It also meant, through integrity, creating a culture of financial sustainability and independence. That is something that we're still striving to get. And as economics within the districts change, whether as economics within HUD, who abundantly finances the majority of our budget, as their thought processes and policies change, so will the direction and integrity of the agency. My second point was accountability. I want to connect our agency to the mission of providing quality housing. That's what I set out to do from the very beginning. I also wanted to make sure that we integrated our agency with other agencies, DHS, DHCD, and DMPED, and other service providers, to provide meaningful partnerships with both public and private. Our PEPV, which I mentioned with DHS, and also partnerships with the DC Housing Finance Agency. Very important, because they fund our projects and assist us whenever necessary. If you improve those relationships, you can go a long way in developing future opportunities. I want to reverse the tendency of the agency to operate in a function-centric type of environment where we're siloed. I wanted to take that away and create customer-centric perspective. And the way we did that was we established the 3 C's through the Office of the Customer Engagement. I also wanted to reduce office and department silos, as I stated, to create more collaborations and more consensus building within the organization because we were fragmented, clearly fragmented in many cases. Third, responsibility. What does that look like for the DCHA and the leadership? This means we must broaden and deepen our commitment to our customers, and we did just that. We took properties back from third-party management groups where I felt as though they were not giving us their best. I thought the way to supplement that would be for the housing authority itself to take over properties that I consider to be neglected to some degree. It also meant taking on responsibility. It also meant, figuring out what the culture of the organization would be and being strategic in our thinking and how we dealt with the needs of our residents. And from that, I can say that we created that 20-year transformation plan, which was unprecedented for the organization to have created on its own without being prompted to by any organization and not by HUD through any form of receivership. What we created in terms of the transformation plan is basically what an organization would do for itself if it wanted to ensure that its direction is going, its trajectory is going on the rise. Finally, for responsibility, it meant we increased employee morale and provided additional chances and opportunities for upward mobility within the organization through training, our employee engagement town halls, and also biannual employee events. And through the pandemic, we had to do those on a virtual level, but I did do one thing. We did give the department heads the opportunity to celebrate their staff, even during the pandemic, with using some funding for department funding to keep their morale up through virtual lunches and different things like that. But what it means at the end of the day, in terms of true responsibility, it's that we take ownership of our work every single day. And if we can do all three of those things, if we can be accountable, if we can use integrity, and we can be responsible, then we'll definitely perform. And when we perform, this is what happens for everyone. We'll find customers a place to live. We'll conduct unit repairs in every unit. We'll interview candidates thoroughly for employment. We'll negotiate properly with developers. We'll provide the essential legal representation when necessary. We'll respond to all requests for assistance, especially when dealing with our sister agencies. And we'll go to any means to complete work orders and provide, public safety and security for our residents and employees, along with asking on a daily basis that our employees perform every day at the highest level. And I also understand that there are different levels of performance. That's true. But I just want you to understand that my expectation for every DCHA employee would be that they perform at a high level with a sense of urgency that is responsive to the needs of our customers. DCHA has a relationship with approximately 30% of the District of Columbia residents. That's 1 in every 3 residents we in some way, shape, or form touch. In my first year, I also outlined a list of priorities, which were, delivery of services to customers to gain their support. We did that, I think, by increasing our number of cameras, 600 cameras that were installed in OPS Command Center, along with the Customer Solution Centers at 1133. We created an economic opportunity for residents, and that's very important because we wanted to let you know, as residents, that we do know and realize self-sufficiency for you and your families is very important, and we want to give you opportunities through education and training with a heightened focus on entrepreneurial opportunities, along with creating opportunities in-house for our organization. The Modified Apprentice Training Program is another example of what we were trying to do, along with our $2,500 micro grant that we issued about 2 weeks ago to 4 entrepreneurs within the District of Columbia Housing Authority. They were resident-owned businesses. We also wanted to reduce work orders. Remember when I first came on, there were over 3,000 work orders that were backlogged. Since that point in time, since 2017, we have since completed over 165 work orders. We wanted to create a rapid turnover by bringing 250 units back online, and we did that initially by December 31st of 2018. But we have more units that we want to bring online in the near future. We wanted to advance capital projects and promote more affordability to units and families throughout the district. I think we can go to an example of that would be the Judiciary Rad effort. And I think we have a little video of that right now and pictures that were actually taken by a resident business that own a young man who actually lives in Judiciary took pictures on our behalf. And I think we can go to those right now. So Natasha, I think you stopped sharing and me. And then I think Mr. Williams can share his screen. And commissioners, I do thank you for indulging me. It's pretty intense, and we have some information that we really want to get out. Okay.
Good
Mr.
afternoon,
Williams,
Commissioner.
I think, can we enlarge that or no? That's the best we're going to be able to do? Okay.
Yep. So we are here at Judiciary, where the ATP program, as well as our maintenance department, has officially completed a model unit. So I just want to do a quick walkthrough with you all. And behind the camera, we have a Judiciary resident, Mr. Reddick, that is doing all the photography, and he's behind the camera right now doing this video. So I definitely wanted to let him know we appreciate what he's doing. So at this time, we're going to cut the ribbon. Are you ready? All right, we are now here at Judiciary. This is a 674 square foot, 1-bedroom apartment. Again, this was remodeled by the ATP program as well as our maintenance and facilities department. So I want to walk you through what was actually being done. As you can see, you have a 1-bedroom. I'm going to walk you over here to the restroom where it has a new sink, new fixtures within the bathroom, new lighting, new mirror. You also have a walk-in closet here. Yep. And you have officially this is the 1-bedroom here. As you can see out of the window, it's an amazing view that we're going to get. Okay. So we also have here in the kitchen, we have all new appliances, cabinetry, wood finish, marble countertop. You also have a new refrigerator and a new stove. And please do not forget to check out this amazing book. But last but not least, what I really want to show you is the balcony is refinished. But if you step out, you see an amazing view of Washington, D.C. This part of town is considered to be Chinatown. This is the new face of DC Housing, where we will invest in all of our units this quality of work. And at this time, Mr. Garrett, I will turn it back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. And thank you, Mr. Reddick, for doing the camera, the photos and doing the video for us today. So commissioners, when you passed the RAD, our intent was to make sure that you could see exactly what we're striving for. So these units, 104 units will be completed beginning in the month of additional units will be completed in the month of June and July. And then as we move forward with the RAD, remember, we're going to complete those particular units. We're going to continue to complete the remaining units with the RAD transaction. But I wanted you to see exactly what the rehabilitation looked like. And again, that rehab wasn't done by contractors. That rehab was actually done by our ATP and our DCHA team. And as you can see, the balcony, when Mr. Williams went out on the balcony is an example of district dollars that were used from fiscal year 20. I think it was fiscal year 20 from the first tranche of funding from Mayor Bowser and the council. We also have gone ahead and started developing relationships and enhancing and fostering positive feedbacks with other stakeholders. Remember, we are working with HU in the health area, GW Nursing, Sibley Hospital, UMC, and Urban Institute, and also the Carpenters Union, because if you recall, for ATP individuals, the Carpenters Unions allowed individuals from that graduating class this year to go over into the Carpenters Union for another apprentice program. We also, again, really invested in technology, especially with the pandemic. When that hit, we had to go into remote work as quickly as possible. And I think we did a really great job with our IT department and also with our staff by making that 180-degree pivot. And at last, and not least, we also created the customer Engagement Center, the Office of Customer Engagement Center, and that is that's handled by Cheryl Robinson, and she leads that department. And the idea of creating that unit, which was not established before I came on board, was to try and create and improve good customer service by treating customers with a friendly attitude and helpful attitude. But also Cheryl's department does surveys that from time to time we look at and evaluate where we're missing the mark. And those are things that when we get that, we try to redirect or ensure that we can make sure people understand exactly what we're trying to do. For the last 3 years, I really have tried to focus on resident initiatives, the property operations, the development and sustainability, our voucher administration program, public safety, organizational efficiency, communications with stakeholders, and increasing our engagement, which was something, again, we heard the hue and cry about that. Our resident initiatives since the first year have continued to improve, and I believe that we're going to be able to enhance that even more as redevelopment and rehabilitation here at the agency starts to increase and pick up speed and momentum. And you've heard about our 3 C's. The idea that I brought on board, one of the first concepts was that we were always going to be complete, clean, and courteous when handling our business with residents through our work orders. And whenever we're not, what we've asked residents to do is let us know. We send out survey cards to individuals and we make phone calls to find out exactly, did we meet those 3 points? And if we did not, then we re-engage with our staff to make sure that they understand exactly what they should be doing. And that was through the Office of Customer Engagement. I'm going to jump over to a couple of other things pretty quickly to move forward at a rapid pace. Our Office of Resident Services did something again, and we'll be able, commissioners, to send this full slide to you, and we'll post it on our website. But these are the things that we have been doing over the last 3 years: our ATP program, our scholarship, and our grants, along with Section 3, how that has actually progressed in so many ways to assisting our residents towards a form of self-sufficiency. And one thing I want to talk about with Section 3, our micro grant to residents was also supported by ThinkBox in doing a combination of business coaching. Now, I know the business coaching doesn't necessarily match and mesh with everyone's schedule, as we have found out, but that was an innovative idea that we came up with to try and encourage more entrepreneurship with our residents, but also give them the support. So again, that $2,500 micro grant to those entrepreneurs was also accompanied by actual coaching from an established business who works with the DC Housing Authority as part of their Section 3 obligation. Our portfolio at the end of the day, and these are other resident initiatives that we have and have been working on, where we can graduate and have our ABLE program. Property operations were very interesting because that majority of our properties were built before 1970. Most of them over the age of 40, and at a rapid pace of deterioration. And it only accelerates as time goes on. And we know because it happened and occurred because of decline in funding from HUD. But what we tried to do to deal with that was, remember, I made the strong decision, and my commitment was there from the very beginning that I would notify all residents of our results of the environmental risk assessment that we did in every single unit. And that was important for people to understand. That had never been done at the agency prior to my arrival, but it gave us the foundation of exactly how we should create a transformation plan and why we should create a transformation plan. What we also included in an environmental risk assessment were lead issues that we had. Remember, before 2017, there had been no lead risk assessments identified for the organization. And I can say in all honesty about that was a double-edged sword as we found out and as we learned, right? You take the step because the moral compass in myself says we need to make sure residents are in safe spaces, but there is a piece that goes along with that. The piece that goes along with that is the fact that when you identify the issue and problem, sometimes your solution, your action and your solution can't come as rapidly and as quickly as people would like. And we fell into that particular trap and when we did our lead assessment. But I'm happy to say that all families that were negatively impacted in that manner, those families that had children under the age of 6, we have relocated them into safe spaces without a question. We also made improvements to our there was a lack of urgency at a period of time about how we dealt with the quality of life for our residents. That doesn't happen anymore. We're sincerely dedicated to getting those things done, and we improved our work order system and put also metrics attached to it to make sure things got done. So as a result of putting metrics to our work on the PMO side, we were able to create a work order initiative again where almost 3,000 work orders were completed in in fiscal year 2018, with an additional 45,000 work orders completed in fiscal year 2019, in addition to emergency and routine work orders that we have dealt with over 2019 and 2020. Again, since I arrived, over 165 work orders have been completed. We also created a pest management system. Natasha, just don't worry about it, leave it right there. We also created the pest management. Remember, I was getting a lot of calls, and you were getting a lot of calls, commissioners, and people were coming to our board meetings talking about rat infestations. I didn't believe that the contractor that we were working with was giving us the right amount of attention and dedication to our issue. So we created our own department for rat infestation and rodent infestation. And I think it's been working pretty well. And we also were able to save, and this is important because this goes to our fiscal viability, over $500,000 by creating our own rodent infestation department handled and run by Mr. Burke. We also went and looked at what we were paying in overtime, and we were working towards trying to reduce overtime costs by creating a night shift. And I'm not sure how many people, I know Commissioner Council knows about our night shift, but I don't know about the other commissioners. If you know that we created a night shift over time. And the one thing that I'm going to say, commissioners, as I continue to see, chats pop up, is that in no way, shape, or form is this a perfect agency. I never claimed it to be, but we still have a lot of work ahead of us to do. But in order to do that, as I said in the beginning, you need to have a plan in order to accomplish those particular goals. And so by doing that, you go through training and professional development of your staff, and you create leadership and capability of the senior staff that you have. So now we have an executive management team that actually filters down to the other individuals who are in leadership positions within the organization. So we can jump to development and sustainability. Since 2018, what we've been able to do is complete, our first rental assistance program application, and that was through for Colorado, Columbia, Fair Lawn, Marshall, and Matthews Memorial, where we converted 9 units into the Rad program. And that had actually been started, commissioners, before I came on board, but we were able to complete that. We secured, don't forget, we secured an $88 million financing component for energy improvement projects, so we could have savings, and we were awarded that $5 million solar grant initiative from DOEE from the district. We created our first ever transformation plan, and that's very, very vital and very important to go to, because the transformation plan itself dealt with our, conditions that we were trying to enhance for residents and improve. And that transformation plan, I think, in all honesty, resulted in our opportunity to have the capital budget line from the district. Without that transformation plan, we would not have been able to validate the fact that our program of our people, our portfolio, and our plan, our 20-year transformation plan was vital and it was also validated by the information that we use. So much so that the district over the last 2 fiscal years has awarded us over $90 million for capital improvements. I talked about one other piece earlier about taking over properties from other management teams that weren't performing well. The big thing, Parkway Overlook Apartments, was not its LIHTC deal that we were the development partner on, the developer on. We had brought in a third-party management to deal with that. That didn't work out well. I made the strong decision halfway through the process of lease up that we needed to remove that agency and put DCHA in, which we have done, and we're moving forward with stabilizing the property so that we can move towards a final conversion, permanent debt conversion within the next 7 months. And you can see here the total number of units that we have retaken over the last 2 years. 1,154 units have been brought back onto the DCHA portfolio, where we manage and maintain on a daily basis. Okay. I'm going to jump, Natasha, to the end, because I think, commissioners, you'll be able to look at this at your own leisure. I'm going to go to So during COVID, let's not forget, we created a landlord portal. We enhanced our public safety initiatives, and we did many other things. The virtual inspections that were created by modernizing our technology for HCVP so we could do those virtual inspections. And remember, those virtual inspections help many agencies gain waivers for in-person inspections. So we were the lead in that particular instance. We have Tableau, which is another form of creative accounting for us. But for Tableau, for me, commissioners, I've shown you in the past that I use dashboards. I wanted the opportunity to show the dashboards, but we'll print out a copy of what we've been using since 2017, or actually 2018. But we have transitioned those dashboards, those colorful dashboards that you see in your monthly report, board reports. We've transitioned those into actual performance measures that are monitored on a monthly basis, department by department. And we come back on a quarterly basis to figure out how we are we going in the right direction? Have we met the metrics? So dashboards are very important. It makes it easy and quick to deal with using the colors of red, green, and yellow. So in fiscal year, and that's an example of one of the dashboards that I can pull up at any point in time to find out how work orders are progressing within the organization. And it's real-time information, commissioners. The same as our CCTV and our automated workforce deployment system. So, you know, in fiscal year 2021, unprecedented challenges that we faced, along with fiscal year 20, because of the most volatile changes of the coronavirus pandemic, and also resulting in some economic stress for not only us as an agency, but also for residents that we serve. And we needed to work with them. So we've been using the state DC program to assist our residents and other resources as well as possible to make sure residents were taken care of. We had an amazing COVID response. I think that this is very important that we recognize that we did not stop our effort and our work on a daily basis when COVID hit. Yes, we needed to pivot, as I said, about 180 to start working from a remote basis. But remember, our public safety department was in every single day, along with other frontline staff, essential workers who worked through the pandemic, and I want to commend them for their effort. The one thing, again, is that we did not stop working during COVID. In fact, I think we picked up our pace to make sure that residents were taken care of and that residents had the opportunity residents had the opportunity to receive the best type of support and interest from our agency as they possibly could, within reason, during COVID and during some of the restrictions and limitations that we actually had. Unfortunately, we had an individual from ATP that was going to talk, and we also had a first-time homeowner. Those individuals, Mr. Carlton Lane, he was going to talk about his experience with the ATP program, and Ms. Drayton was going to talk about her testimonial about purchasing a home. We'll have to figure out a date to bring them in again to do that, as we're starting to run a little long on this. But I just wanted to talk to you again. I know, but we're going to skip over that. But we'll be able to come back to you at a later date, I hope, just to talk about what your experience were with the ATP program and also with purchasing a home with the assistance and support of DCHA. And here you can see our COVID response. Yes.
If Ms. Drayton is here, I'm sure we can take a few minutes.
We can take it? Okay, no problem. Ms. Drayton?
Because I was about to say.
I'm sorry, I apologize. I'm running long and I didn't want to, you know.
Yeah, because I done took an extra 30 minutes for lunch. You're going to give me my time. I took an extra 30 minutes for lunch.
Okay. Thank you.
Go ahead, Ms. Drayton.
Okay, good afternoon, you guys. My name is Monique Drayton. I'm going to share just a tad bit of my home ownership journey. The environment in which me and my family lived gave me an extra will and purpose to strive to want better. For the past 2 years, I worked on my credit, paid down debt until I had a pristine credit. I was ready to go. I went through several home buying programs, IZ, HPAC, DC Open Doors, and the FSS program, which solidified my purpose. Okay, I went through several home buying programs, the IZ, the HPAC, the DC Open Doors, and the FSS program, which solidified my purpose. When IZ and HPAC let me down due to income requirements, the overtime hurt my chances. All of those programs offer hope and opportunity for specific individuals they choose to cater to. The programs that offered me hope and opportunity was DC Open Doors and the FSS program. They gave me a fighting chance to become a homeowner, honestly. Mr. Matthew Borgeson from First Home Mortgage was the sun in the sky who gave me the 100% blueprint for what to do specifically to get the house I wanted. I didn't use the first home mortgage down payment program, assistance program, but the information offered was the key. Mrs. Rich and Mr. Nelson from the FSF were my stars. They offered me a package of information. They brought in realtors, inspectors, appraisers, loan officers. They didn't just give me the house talk. They gave me an experience. They connected the information and brought it to life. The FSS program came into my life right on time. Because me being not making the IZ and HPAP qualifications, I was feeling mighty down. But Ms. Rich calling me, she gave me a little hope. And I'm thankful for the wealth of information that allowed me to dot my I's and cross my T's when it was time to close on the home. I knew what I was signing up for with confidence. There are a lot of families stuck in those communities, believing home ownership is impossible. It should be a requirement for anyone living in housing to complete at least 2 hours of a home buyer's information session, giving them a piece of possibility. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Drayton. Really appreciate that. And I particularly was pleased to hear of the support that you got from the various folks that you gave a shout out to. Mr. Garrett, if I can just have to do it now, if I can get Ms. Drayton's information a little later, I'd like to follow up with her.
Okay, no problem. And thank you, Ms. Drayton.
You can help some others who are trying to make this journey and it's proven difficult for them. I've encountered a number of people who've become frustrated over the years. You persevered, and so sharing your experience with them might be helpful. So thanks in advance for indulging me on that.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Hey, and commissioners, I just want to say for Commissioner Hoffman and Commissioner Commissioner Bussey Reader, the FSS program is a program that functions out of DCHA, the Family Self-Sufficiency Program, which you referenced that. That's our program that we work with our residents on to allow for opportunities for self-sufficiency, especially with home ownership. And I'm going to close out just talking about some of the things that we've done over the last year in terms of development.
Mr. Garrett, did you have another guess?
You're okay for our ATP?
Yeah, I mean,
okay, no problem. We can have Mr. Williams. Do you have him still with you?
Yes, he's right.
Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is Carlton Lane, and I'm a graduate from the 1st District of Columbia's Housing Authority's Apprentice Program. While in the apprenticeship program, I learned basic carpentry, plumbing, and landscaping skills needed to perform entry-level jobs with DCHA. After graduation, I was hired as a laborer. While working as a laborer, I was given the opportunity to work alongside maintenance mechanics to further my trade skills and knowledge. After all the hard work, I was detailed in the maintenance worker position, and I was detailed into the maintenance worker position, and I have been recommended for the maintenance mechanic position. First and foremost, I want to give a thanks to Mr. Garrett for allowing the program to go on. I also want to thank Mr. Counsel, Mr. Moody, and Mr. Williams for the opportunity to progress through the last 3 years that I have been with DCHA. Has really changed my life in a major way. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And commissioners, as you know, this is just one of over 100 individuals who have graduated from our program. I know Commissioner Counsel look at me, think I'm going to choke up, but this program is very vital to me, and it means a lot to be able to have these individuals actually participate and graduate from the program, because many of them, when they come on board, for some of them, it's almost like this is their last opportunity for a chance. And we bestow that and we give that to them. And the DCHA team who works with them devotes a lot of time and effort to ensuring their individual success for not only themselves, but also almost trying to guarantee success for their families across the board. So I'm just going to close out with a few other notes about things that happened over this particular fiscal year on the side of development. And one of the probably the major accomplishment that I want to talk about is the fact that we were able to have that Rad Project approval. And that was so important for us with Judiciary being approved. And that's going to give us an opportunity for a redevelopment project where we are able to be the developer and also the management team from beginning to end on that particular project without any other third parties participating. And that's important because many individuals are looking to see what our capacity actually is. And we've made several strides over the last year to make sure that we recruited, national experts in their areas of expertise to help us get there. I mean, you've all met John Sarah, who's hit the ground running, along with Greg Mays, our general counsel. And I think those were really great opportunities and great hires for us, along with bringing them on board with the ability to work in concert with the other members of the team that we already have on board, I think solidifies us. You just have to put the right team together and put the right people in the correct seats to get a lot of things done. So when you look at this slide, you'll see what we have done in terms of redevelopment. And this is just really, honestly, commissioners, for the last 2 years. We've moved some projects that have been stuck in the mud, and we're going to continue to move those projects as quickly as we possibly can because the residents are looking at us and they are paying attention to whether or not we can get the job done. And as you said in the earlier meeting during Brown Bag, we are already behind the 8 ball based on some people's belief in our capacity. And I understand that, but I believe that as we move forward, we can see our way through that. So, as you know, we do have, activity, movement with Greenleaf Gardens, which we didn't necessarily have before. Kenilworth Courts is moving. The Barry Farm project is actually moving. Judiciary is moving. And those are just, a few of the projects that we have on board, along with the other work that we have within the agency, within the OCP, which is all of the actual rehabilitation work that is going on. At DCHA, you would be amazed by the dollars that are being spent and put back into the community through the work and rehabilitation at many of our sites, and a lot of it again of district dollars being used to get those things done. We're talking about renovations and new elevators. We're talking in certain buildings. We're talking about new roofs. We're talking about in being able to put in new boiler systems, new heater systems in many of the buildings. And we do that for a reason, because we want our residents to be put in a condition, put in units that suit their actual needs and suit what they actually deserve. I think in the past, some of us sometimes people may have taken that for granted and not given it the priority that it deserves. But here at DCHA now, we don't do that. That's very important for us. Another example would be the use of the district dollars to try and create make-ready units. Make-ready units will help us with our opportunity for possible bill first, but also the make-ready units using district dollars and some of our internal capital dollars will allow us to put residents in good, safe spaces until a full redevelopment effort can be accomplished at their particular site. I think that's very important for us to realize and understand, your support in this, especially with the RAD initiative and upcoming redevelopment opportunities, very, very vital in order for us to get to where we're going. And at that same time, commissioners, we are educating and training our residents to be prepared for those goals. I think during initial conversations with you when I first came on board and probably before, it was how can the Housing Authority participate more actively? And I think Judiciary is an example of what we can do, as you saw what the unit actually looks like after it's completed. For our future, this is what I envision. I envision a continued bold decision making, similar to what we did when we created the transformation plan, similar to what I had to do when I made the decision about doing the environmental assessment in every single unit, and also doing all the lead risk assessments. Again, time of making those decisions, times of enacting those decisions, and the results of those decisions can be lengthy in most cases, but we tried to shorten that divide as best as we possibly could to ensure that residents were put into safe spaces. That bold decision making will continue, and I won't hesitate to do the right thing, as that's where my moral compass is. We have started, and this is one of the big things that you talked to me about in 2020, robust resident engagement. And as I said to the chair, I've been out in front of resident engagement in many cases, especially with the OCP redevelopment opportunities, to ensure that people see my face, to know that any decision making that is being made is coming from the executive director, and I'm participating in those discussions, and I'm not being led astray. And we've also been able, as that slide said, we've also been able to engage with our council members, along with the advocates and other residents in other facets. With our council members, for two of the council members, we have regular scheduled meetings each month with them, bi-weekly meetings with these two council members each month, because they handle health and human services, and we're part of that cohort, along with the new housing. I forgot what the deputy mayor, please help me. What's the new name for that committee? Housing and Revitalization and Administration. That's what it is. So that new committee that we report to. So both Commissioner Nadeau and Councilmember Nadeau and Councilmember Bonds speak to me at least 4 times a month on issues that we have before us, and they also are able to ask us questions. So the robust communication, not only with residents, but it also transitioned over to the Wilson Building also. And going forward, just think, our robust communication has developed in such a way that we had to make improvements to our housing choice voucher program when it comes to the local environment, and so much so that we actually are in the vein of creating a new department within HCVP that only deals with local vouchers. And it's timely. And the reason it's timely, commissioners, is because the emergency housing vouchers that were issued to us are going to require a rapid response from our team to make sure that in concert with DHS, we're able to deploy those vouchers as soon as possible. So that's $11.7 million that we're going to be receiving or have access to, if not more, if we perform well. So the idea is for us to really hit the ground running to make sure that we can figure out a way to definitely eliminate homelessness within the district in concert with DHS. So that's going to be a strong partnership. The way the HUD guidelines are created, it's that we must use a cohort, a CLC, to initiate utilization of those vouchers. So although you may have said, why don't we do the program ourselves? That's not where the way the guidelines are set up. We must use a cohort, and our cohort is DHS, who has a homeless program already in play. So, and in closing, commissioners, thank you for indulging me. I don't usually go this long, but I just thought it was imperative that you understand exactly what the change for our organization looks like. And I didn't touch on every single slide, but you can go through them, and each one, denotes some type of movement, some type of encounter that the Housing Authority has had over the last 3 years, and especially over the last year, even during the midst of COVID, with so much that we were able to accomplish, even though the pandemic was around us, along with other social unrest. So, in reality, for me, I took full responsibility of DCHA from the very beginning, and will continue to do in the future. This responsibility is not taken lightly. I'm embracing the challenges in order to lead and try to implement a lot of different changes as quickly as possible. And those don't come as fast as you would like to, as you probably would like to see them, and as definitely as I would like to see them. Everybody knows that I want things done yesterday. But again, I have to live in the reality that it doesn't always work on my timeline. But the goal is to get there. My first commitment will always be, and has always been, to ensure that DCHA cares about our families, and we will definitely do that. And in doing so, you have to sometimes pull off the scabs. You have to uncover your own imperfections in order to make improvements. I don't shy away from that, but it gives us an opportunity to create and develop and implement, vital solutions that will lead us into the future. So our reality is that there's not always going to be consensus for every issue that we face. We're all going to agree to disagree at times, but I believe that we all have the best interests of our residents at hand. And many of our issues that we're going to face are not going to be glamorous. They're not going to be shining and new all the time. Some of them are going to be a lot of these things that I've talked about here that are behind the scenes that you wouldn't even know that's going on, and we're creating to improve our organization and the agency. But what we need to assure you, our team, as you can see, our team in working with individuals from stakeholders from outside the organization and from within, we become a more stronger and more efficient agency, and we're championing the cause for our most vulnerable residents on a daily basis, and we won't stop doing that as we move forward. So again, thank you for indulging me. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to just go over a snippet. This is just a snippet of what we actually have been doing over the last three years, with a strong emphasis on the last 6 months of the fiscal, the first six months of the fiscal year. I think if you need, we can send you out different slides, and we've done this over time, slides about what we're doing on the capital front, how much money we've actually expended. We have all those things. We've given those presentations to the council during oversight, and we also have uploaded those same slides to you previously. So a lot of information that I might have touched on real briefly, you do have backup documentation that we've been giving to you all along. So I can take any questions if you have any. And again, commissioners, thank you for indulging me. And I realize and recognize that we're not always going to be on the same page every single time on every single issue, but I believe the dedication is not only there from you, but it's also there from residents that we engage on a daily basis, and we're working to serve them better.
Well, thank you so much. That was such a detailed report. I appreciate you offering to share it with the board, and I would say the larger community. I'm just going to ask folks, if you're not speaking, to put your device on mute. Shanita and Alicia, if you guys can help me with that, I'd appreciate that. I also want to see if our commissioners have any questions.
I have a couple of questions.
Yes, go ahead.
We're dude or not a dude with the commissioners. You got property managers out here from CIH and CT do not respect the commissioners. And they always say that I yell at them. Let me finish. That I yell at them and all that. I don't yell at them. I'm a resident too. And I sees it. And they can run, they can run everything, but they don't know the commissioners are their supervisors. But they don't see that. I put a proposal. Let me finish. I put a proposal to get rid of all property managers from CT and CIH, because they're bringing that old CIH and CT mentality to us. No, we don't want that. We want somebody new. I see that how they talk to residents, how they respect the residents. I'm a resident too, and a commissioner, but they don't give me no respect. And they'll be crying the girl that I yell at them and all that. I don't go to none of the property management. When I go to a property, I go to the tenants. I don't go to the management.
Commissioner,
they follow me around the building, and it's not fair to me.
And so, Commissioner, thanks for sharing that concern with us. We certainly hear you. And Mr. Garrett is hearing you also. I think we can respond offline, Mr. Garrett, to Mr. Talaferro's concerns. I want to make sure that we touch some of the other commissioners that have questions. I'm going to ask Commissioner Council to lead this portion of the meeting. I have to drop off for a few. I think next we have in the queue Commissioner Slover.
I appreciate it. No, I appreciate the presentation, Mr. Garrett. The agency is obviously wide, vast, lots of issues, lots of moving parts, but the thing that I like to try to focus on, the most simplistic sort of measuring stick of success is, since we're in the housing business, is our occupancy level. And our occupancy level seems to always be 74, 75%, which is not high. And so I just don't, I never seem to really fundamentally understand why our occupancy level hovers at that number year in and year out. And so one of the things I would have loved to have seen addressed is sort of an explanation about that. I think you're muted.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I was. I can give you a short version of that, and then so what happened, Commissioner Commissioner Slover and commissioners, when I came on board, when we went through the environmental assessment, what we found was that we had many units that we needed to take offline. And in taking those units offline, we didn't have the capital fund to be able to put them back online. So what you're going to see based on the capital fund allocation from the district coming through, those make-ready units are going to start to actually increase our allocation, our occupancy levels are actually going to increase. There was also another thing that was done, Commissioner Slover, which it was the previous administration had made a decision in some cases at some sites to take units offline prior to having formal approval, such as a demolition approval. And that's something that I'm trying to figure out how to recover from. So that's another reason why we're putting units back online also, because some properties were being, residents were leaving those properties and then units were not being put back online, but there was no formal redevelopment approval from HUD. So that impacted our occupancy component. So there are a couple of things that we're dealing with and we're pushing through, but I believe that going forward, we have about 300 units that are going to be put back online by OCP, with another 300 units that are going to be put back online by PMO within the next 12 months. In doing that, that should start to increase our occupancy level, and also taking a more strategic approach to how we approach redevelopment is important. I can't tell you what previous, the thought process of previous decision makers. I don't know, but I know for myself, my process for doing a redevelopment project at a parcel, at a piece of property, one of our portfolio sites, would be to first go through the process of the demolition disposition application, settle that before I start trying to move residents off site. Because the HUD does not allow you to take those units offline. They're still counted against you. And one last effort that we have done, and we talked about it once before, was that we were able to put approximately 200 units of single occupancy units back online over the last year, and we're looking to occupy those particular units now as ECOT goes through the selection process. So we're talking about, just in naming that, we're talking about almost roughly, let's say about 800 units that we'll be able to bring back online within the next 12 to 15 months. So that should increase the occupancy level across the board.
Okay, again, I appreciate that explanation. It's just a significant portion of our available units being not occupied seems troubling, and
but we do have a solution.
I know, but it's they've been empty for a long time, and I hope we can get a solution that gets them reoccupied a little more quickly. And that's all. Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, Commissioner Slover, the one thing that I said earlier in my presentation, I was talking about the recognition paradigm, which is, the length of time from a decision that someone makes, possibly to what the actual impact is. And that was my example with the not having demolition applications for some properties. You didn't realize and notice the impact of that particular decision until a later date. And so now we're realizing what that looks like when you don't do it in succinct order.
Again, I hope I kind of just ready to move on, but we need to find a way to get these things out. I mean, there's 1,000 reasons why things don't happen, and time and distance and whatever you want to talk about. The real world reality is that we have 25% of our units are unoccupied, and that's the real world reality. And I'd like to see a solution for that, and not a bunch of discussions about these things and those things and what has to happen here, what has to happen there. I'd like a timeline on when these 1,600 units are going to be occupied. It's a very simple request. That's all I'd like to see. It's
going to be about 800 units. 800 units are going to be occupied within the next 15, and we'll give it to you. We also, again, we did talk about, and we're using district dollars for, I think, 375 of those units. So
I'm just asking that you just give it to us. I mean, it's
okay.
I see this number every month. Doesn't seem to move, and I know things take time, but time is not our friend here.
Mm-hmm. And commissioners, I am truly appreciative of the capital dollars from the mayor and the council. those capital dollars, as Thor once presented to you a few weeks ago, is really being a driving effect to put some of these units back online as quickly as possible.
Bill, were you done?
Yeah, I mean, for this part, yes.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. This is the time where our constituents have a time to talk about whatever their issues are.
Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Council. I thought we were gonna. I do have one other thing I wanted to say before we go into that. If you could give me a second.
Go ahead.
I think we all received last night an email from some of the advocates about a new resolution that is trying to build upon Resolution 1606, which this board passed in 2016. It was actually a resolution that I brought forward to the board. The only time a commissioner has actually brought forward a resolution, it was quite a process. A lot of negotiations back and forth to get that resolution agendized. Unfortunately, one of the things that fell off during that process was that resolution, which is the right to return resolution, which is critical to our residents and to building the trust in our residents, was reduced and confined down just to the new communities projects. So it just covered 4 projects. The intention in the beginning always was, when we started that process, was that it would cover all of our redevelopment projects. Greenleaf, things that are not new communities projects. We want those rights to return to go across all of those projects because we want our residents to trust the process from the beginning. Now, since 2016, that resolution has never been, like, non-legal terms, formalized. It's never been put into our regs. It's not a requirement. It's just a hope and a dream, is guess what I would call it. And when I brought this up in the past, I've always been met from the agency, which is, of course we're going to do that. That's what we're going to do. We're going to do it on all the projects. That's what we're, but that doesn't really get the job done. And so what I'm hoping is that this latest attempt, resolution 20, whatever it's going to be, can finally solidify this process so that right to return is very clear and cuts across all of our redevelopment. And so I would love to get a commitment from the agency that we're going to.
Hello.
Bill, you muted.
Have I been the whole time?
Yeah, we heard you. Muted for like 3 seconds.
Someone muted me. I guess they didn't like what I was saying. So anyway, I don't know where I got muted, but I would like a commitment
that resolution of, and making sure that it's memorialized in everything we do.
Thank you, Luan. No, I would like commitment from the agency that we're going to take this resolution and we're going to finally formalize it, and then we're going to do it across all the properties. Should that be what the board wants? The board needs to discuss it. I hope that's what the board wants. But if it is, let's formalize it. Let's make it real. Let's not make it so that each time that has to be a question in the beginning of the process. That's just an assumption, and that's embedded into everything. So I just wanted to bring that up because there's been a lot of work from the advocates on this over the last 5 years. And it just goes into that whole sort of trust conversation we were having earlier. We need to start establishing a baseline of trust, and this would be a great place to do it. So I hope we can do it. And I appreciate your all taking the time to listen to me.
Thank you, Commissioner Slover. Commissioner Strickland.
Can I say, I'm sorry, I didn't put something in chat, but I know the executive record, thank you for your presentation today. I know it was very long and winded, but I just wanted to ask just something very basic and simple. I know you've been at the helm for some time, and I know you mentioned today about, you know, previous administrations and the things that they've done, and you had to live with those decisions. But just real simple, like, you've been here for a few years now. What are the top 3 things that we could say that Director Garrett, you know, past administration, regardless if we liked it or didn't like what they've done, but Director Garrett, these three things have made life better for the residents and have also moved the ball forward, in lack of a better term, in terms of getting the housing authority to where we think it should be or would like it to be.
I can start off with that bold decision that to do all the risk assessments and the lead environmental assessments at the risk assessments and the environmental assessments at all the units. That was the first piece, because that gave us the baseline so that we knew exactly what we were working with. And I think that was an important step for the organization, as uncomfortable as it may have been to do. I think that was important, and I really hang my hat on that, because many people, I don't think, it could have been done at any point in time, and I think it was important that we did it. And from that spurred our transformation plan. Knowing what we were dealing with, that gave us the foundation. So I think, our people, our portfolio, our plan, I think that's important, because that spans over 20-year viability opportunity for the Housing Authority to improve its, not only just the first 14 properties that are in distress, but the entire portfolio in some way, shape, or form. And that, again, I equate the transformation plan itself to the opportunity to gain a budget allocation line from the district. Because without being able to show exactly what we were going to do and be able to have those conversations with the CFO, we wouldn't have been at that point. And that was the document that we used to spur that particular conversation. And that's the document that we're going to continue to use as we go forward to try and service our residents. The last piece is, I think, is a combination, I believe, it's actually four. It's a combination of human capital external and human capital internal. And what I mean by that, our transformation plan wasn't just about bricks and mortar. It was about being able to move residents forward at the same time. So our expo with entrepreneurship, our support of local businesses that will hire our residents at some point in time during this transformation, our ATP program that I hang my hat on, because that was able to engage residents. So our human capital piece is very, very important to the agency. And I think that's another piece I would say we really have done a bang up job with, and it's going to always improve. We're not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. And then we're investing in our people internally within the organization. We're giving them the technology and the tools and the training that they need to be able to compete at the highest level within this organization, because I don't want DCHA to be a third tier housing authority. I want us to be a premier housing authority that rivals some of the other organizations through the country that are doing great creative things. So I think those four components, I think, are very important to identify, along with anything that you could look at that PowerPoint and pull out and say, hey, I didn't know they were doing that. Oh, the last thing though, how we pivoted during COVID, the fifth one. I mean, we did that quickly. We did not miss a beat. And some people looked at me as though I wasn't being sensitive to the situation, but I also know I have to be, I couldn't be as sensitive as some people may have thought I should be, because we service so many people in the community and they needed us. So I didn't necessarily take my foot off the pedal when it came to COVID and what we needed to do and how quickly we needed to do it in. So I think that's a piece to our puzzle. So
thank you for that.
Mr. Strickland, you're done?
Oh, Commissioner Strickland, I can say some more. We started moving projects. Think about it. Barry Farm started moving. It wasn't moving before, but it's starting to move, right?
Yeah.
Kenilworth, it's starting to move. They're moving in, and they're getting ready to go to a closing in the fall. So redevelopment projects that may have been stalled are actually have some life now.
I'm finished. Thank you, Commissioner Gum.
Okay, thank you. With that being said, it's time for our constituents to speak and give us their views. Something about me, in order to get respect, you got to give respect. So I'm going to ask you, as you do your testimonies this evening, it's okay to be angry and mad, but choose your words wisely. Make sure every word you say out your mouth have power, but not nastiness. With that being said, our first constituent is Miss Patrice Belt. You have 5 minutes.
Yes. Hi. Give me a second. We'll be the first one to be cold. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I want to know how many total units will be built, and is there a breakdown of what sort of units in Berry Farms? Like townhouses, apartments, condos. Would it be affordable, replacement, public housing, or like how many units total will be built. And in the absence of the PUD binding development agreement, what will make the developers deliver on what they've been promising? And again, it's Detrice Belt, and I'm the chair of the Berry Farm Citizen Allies. Thank you.
So I'm looking to see, I'm looking to see what Central can give us our totals, because we went over this before, and I don't want to misspeak on what the totals are for that first phase.
I apologize, I don't have them at my disposal. We can try and get that.
I know the first phase, I think the first phase is 104 units, that's the first phase. 104 units will be, that's 1B, which will be the senior building that will be built. I don't remember off the top of my head the total number of units over how many phases. And also,
we will, respond to these as well informally, but Andre, if you're on the line, if you have the unit counts, please do share them. And then regarding the question,
don't get this information.
we can share that PowerPoint. I don't think we have a problem in sharing. Remember the PowerPoint presentation we had a couple of weeks ago?
Sure, I mean, it's one that we've shared in other public meetings. We'll make sure to send that over to her.
And we'll send it over to her. We'll upload
Ms.
it.
Belt, we have your telephone number and your email. We will send that to you. If you don't have it before close of business this week, please let me know.
And we also would like Ms. Belt, if possible, to attend the Berry Farm meeting later on this month, March 25th as well. And we'll be reaching out to her to make sure she has that information as well.
May 25th.
It's May 25th, but she'll get the copy of the PowerPoint that we were sharing with you. She'll get a copy of that to answer her questions.
Thank you. Mr. Walker? Is Mr. Walker online? Ms. Matthews?
Is that for Dina Walker?
No.
Okay, thank you.
All righty. Paulette Matthews? Ms. Hyde?
I'm here. Just 1 second, please. Pulling up my testimony. Good afternoon, commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. I want to speak upon what is currently happening at Park Morton as I've watched this community be torn apart for the sake of the redevelopment and how it has had an effect upon the mental health of the remaining residents. Since the start of everyone's quote unquote choice to move, according to DCHA, I feel that the majority of it has been to the decimation of our community. DCHA has allowed the crimes of the others to exacerbate in the worsening of the conditions around us, as well as making us a target by boarding up the vacant units. DCHA, DEMPED, as well as the relocation team have literally moved just about all of the Park Morton residents from the property to eliminate the crime, quote unquote. Since then, the activities of the people who do not reside at Park Morton has increased, although our population has decreased. This shows that many of our Park Morton residents do not, have not, and are not participating in those activities to continue to put our safety at risk, thus increasing our mental distress. On April 17, 2021, a deceased body of a person who had overdosed was found on our property in a parked car behind the 630 Park Road building. Since then, there have been several others that have been found that also overdosed next to the playground, the 651 building, 651 Morton Street building, and the basketball court. This ultimately has an effect on us, especially now during the time of the coronavirus pandemic. In order for DCHA to comprehend the effect it has, I am requesting, outright demanding that all of DCHA staff, police officers, and any affiliates be thoroughly trained by taking mental health awareness courses to understand the impacts of mental health. If all the other cities' government agencies have to do it, then why does DCHA have to be exempt? After sustaining verbal assaults from a DCHA staff member named Mr. Jenkins in the past, asking if I had quote unquote taken my meds, this is a prime example of why your staff needs additional training. This insult was reported to Mr. Thaxton as well as Ms. Samaja Watson, which nothing was done. Psalms 34:13. Keep your tongue from evil and your lips from speaking deceit. Residents have witnessed the DCHA MPD processing the scene of the deceased. Imagine the effect it has on a person's mind, knowing that this is not a television show like CSI, Criminal Minds, Bones, or Numbers. Personally, I'm built different. I can handle it because I have witnessed worse and many catastrophes that I've helped clean up after doing many of the hurricanes and tornadoes. My daughter is about to graduate to become a forensic scientist, so we're built differently than others. So with that being said, 2 Timothy 2:7, think over what I said, for the Lord will give you understanding in everything. Thank you for your time today. I am Ms. Shante Hyde, the president of the council at Park Morton.
Thank you, Ms. Hyde. Your information has been recorded, and I know the parties that heard it should get back with you within a week, if not sooner. Again, if you don't, please let me know before our next committee meeting, our Board of Commissioners meeting, please.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Next witness, Cynthia Thomas. Ms. Thomas, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, hi, Commissioners. Thanks for giving me the opportunity for this testimony. I'm a former Berry Farm resident. I now live in James Creek property. I have an issue going on with the animal living next door to me. And I have did everything I could do as far as calling animal control, dealing with the property manager, dealing with the assistant manager. I wrote letters. And I have spoken with Ms. Watson today, and she stated to me, as far as my issue is going on with the animal, it's nothing that can be done right now because of the COVID. No notice could be issued for a 30-day notice for the removal of the animal. And she told me all I could do now, as far as when the dog jumps into my yard again or chases me and my grandkids out the yard, is to call the police.
So, Ms. Thomas, are you speaking of a resident that has an animal?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. Is Mr. Williams on here? Larry Williams, are you online?
I also emailed Mr. Williams twice. I didn't get a response.
On the line.
Okay. Can you look into that, please?
Yes, and we have addressed the issue with the resident that she's referring to, but according to her, the animal keeps jumping the fence. So we did advise her that she would need to call the police to make a report based on the fact that we've already attempted to address it with the resident. And so she does need to continue to report that, but we are also following up with the resident that has the animal.
Okay.
Larry, I'm sorry, Ms. Williams and Mr. Kent, I just want Larry to explain to you about the notice issue of how we're limited right now due to COVID, because the restrictions are still in place. So we can't necessarily, and Greg, our general counsel, can chime in, we can't issue, there's certain notices we can't issue to residents at this point in time. Once that is lifted, we should be able to go ahead and notice the resident officially in our capacity and then move in a different direction. So
that is correct.
Okay.
Okay, my second issue was my unit is infested with mice and rats. I have been calling the exterminator out. I did everything they asked me to do. I'm still having this problem. I got up this morning. I had dead mice in my front room. I just don't know what else to do, and I can't keep leaving my home. I don't know. It says gotten that bad.
So, Mr. Williams, can we send Mr. Burke out there to deal with, first I need to make a can you make a determination for me? Is this an individual issue within the unit where there's something that needs to be taken care of, or is this property wide? Because there's a distinction and difference.
Because I also have a vacant unit next door to me.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, so I will send Mr. Burke there, and he will be there this week.
Can he get there tomorrow?
Absolutely.
Are there any more, Ms. Thomas?
That was my main two concerns.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All righty, you're welcome. Heather Day? Heather Day?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, first let me touch on the topic that Ms. Thomas has mentioned. I'm also here at James Creek, and the mice is an issue property-wide.
Okay.
I call like every week because there's issue with mice. I had to get my stove replaced because I even had maggots coming out of my stove last week. So it's property-wide as far as the mice issue. Another thing, I still had no update from work tickets that I requested back in December. And I can't remember if it was Mr. Albert or if it was you, Mr. Counsel, that asked Tyrone Garrett to reach out to me for my last issue from the last Board of Commissioners call a month ago, in which I still have not had any contact from Mr. Garrett. Like, this is ridiculous. I've spoke to everyone in the chain of command in DC Housing Authority, and everyone is just putting everything off. Who do I talk to now? Like, I've spoke to every single property manager, this person, this manager, the deputy, this, that, the chair of this, the head of this, executive this. Like, who's going to help me? Like, this is so frustrating. But yet, you guys are going into my account, making adjustments from 2016 on what my rent should have been, or what my escrow should have been. That's not my issue. And the fact that you guys are still adding more and more money to my Rent Cafe account from something that's 4 or 5 years ago is ridiculous. Yet, no one can help me understand how to get an extension on the program, especially with the time that I lost from the fire. No one can help me as far as getting any of my money back or any of these issues resolved from stuff that happened to the fire, prior to the fire, and during the time that I've lived in the DC Housing Authority property. Then as far as my program, which is going to end in a few months, no one has any information on that. No one has worked on my unit. No one has reached out to anything. Nobody knows nothing. Everybody just continuously pass the buck around and nothing happens. Like, this is beyond frustrating.
Heather, Mr. Day, let me ask you, you're on James Creek as well, correct?
I'm here now, yeah.
Okay, now the issues you're having are you in contact with management?
I sent the email to Ms. Watson, so they were able to contact someone. I spoke with the foreman. They came out, they replaced my stove, and the pest control came here. But the thing is, it's ridiculous. I have to buy containers to put my food into so that the mice are not eating the rice or eating any food that we sit around. Like, that's crazy. Now it looks like the container store in my kitchen, because I got to buy totes to put my food in so that the mice are not eating the food that I'm purchasing for my family.
Okay, Tyrone, is that Larry as well?
I spoke to everybody. I spoke to Larry Williams several times, to Marjorie Watson. I spoke to Brandy Lynch. I spoke to everybody except for Tyrone Garrett, who's supposed to reach out to me a month ago, who still has not reached out to me.
So, Commissioners, this is what I'm going to explain to you about the larger issue. So we're going to have Mr. Burke, since it's a property-wide, we're going to have Mr. Burke come out tomorrow, and he's going to do a property assessment. He's also going to give us a report. I'm going to ask for a copy of the latest report that he did on that property in terms of his abatement, so I can get it out to you so you can see exactly what has been done to date and any other work orders that dealt directly with rodent infestation in any of the units at James Creek. So, Commissioner Counsel, so the other part I just want to say is that Ms. Day obtained legal, she referenced in her correspondence, she referenced legal counsel. And so when she referenced legal counsel, I had Mr. Mays reach out to her, because when that happens, that's a customary policy for us. When someone mentions that they have legal counsel, we always then refer it to the GC's office to deal with, versus any of my employees dealing directly with the issue. So I don't know if Ms. Day, if you saw the email from Mr. Mays referencing your legal counsel and asking that they get in contact so they could coordinate a time and date to discuss further. So
I spoke with Mr. Mays, but there were other issues that you were supposed to reach out to me in reference to. Also, there was a request for work tickets from the fire at Elvins Road in December that I still have not received information on, and other requests that I put in that no one has reached out to me about. So that's one of the issues.
Okay, so from what I'm hearing, you have legal representation. So I think
Well, yeah, but well, I had someone that was represented into the case, but trying to reach them has been horrible. So I spoke with Mr. Mays, in which I'm actually going to send him another email after I get off this call in reference to the next steps, because I can't reach them. But they helped me draft the letter. That's what I said in reference to the legal representation. They helped me draft the letter to request a way to try to figure out some of these issues that keep being ignored.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Day. I look forward to receiving the letter, and we'll talk after we get the letter.
You have the letter that I sent email.
I don't think I have it. I'll look again. Okay.
Ms. Day, again, you have my information. Please let me know within 30 days. These issues that I'm hearing today, I would like to have them resolved, cured, or either in a way of resolving before the next 30 days of our next BOC.
Okay, yeah, because I
Please
don't
keep me in
understand
touch.
if some of this other stuff can be resolved, and I'm asking stuff about my account. They can go in and add money from 2016 that they never put on my account, but no one can go in and help resolve the work orders or resolve some of these other requests and issue. I don't get it. And then how can they go back and order, pay something, add charges to my account from 4 or 5 years ago? If nobody was managing our property, which they weren't, which is why we had all these issues, that's not my issue, and I shouldn't have to pay for it now.
Right. We're reviewing your file, Ms. Day, and I'll be in contact.
All right. We'll see.
Already? Thank you. Already. Ms. Childs?
This is Ms. Childs. I'm here. I'd like to say hello to everybody and thank you for giving me the opportunity to express my concerns. I have a breathing issue, so I rush when I talk from living at Keller Miller. And hello, Tyrone Garrett, and I do believe in you and your plan. I really do. I'm still at 240 W Street, and I have severe breathing problems. Something's up there is causing me not to be able to breathe like other tenants that had passed on and had moved. And I'm still here. And the maintenance, well, the management escorted a lady in just to take samples, just in case if I was trying to file a lawsuit, but that's not it. I just want to live in a safe place. And nevertheless, I have over 80 mice coming in there. They come through the floors, and the maintenance people said they can't fix it with me living there. And then the safety issue. There's 2 attackers. I'm still living there. Then my second complaint was that I never got my paycheck when I was working there in February 2019. You guys took taxes out. A federal judge had mentioned that you used my social security number when I wasn't working there for 6 additional months. I can't get any help. And then third, I want to do some volunteer work to help raise some money for public housing. I like doing volunteer work. I like to be part of the solution. So you can put my name down. We can do a fundraiser.
yes, ma'am. So we're gonna. I'm unfortunately, I'm sorry. This is the first time that I'm hearing about your issue. So I'm gonna ask Mr. Williams to send over the paperwork, and I'll review it myself personally.
I know, because they don't let it get. They don't let it get to you, Mr. Garrett. Your executive staff stopped my complaints from getting to you.
Director Garrett, an inspection has been done on her unit by a third party, and the results are back, and we sent her a copy of the inspections with the test results. They are all negative. And the property manager has spoken to Ms. Childs. Ms. Childs was offered a unit that she declined. So we can circle back to her to have a further discussion. But I want to be clear that we did follow up. We did have a third party do the samples in her unit, and they all came back negative, and we sent Ms. Childs a copy of that report.
Respectfully, this is not correct. You guys did do an inspection. I never got the results, and I'm not here to fight. If I can't breathe, I can't breathe. If you're doing a lead sample, that's not going to help me be able to breathe. If I can't take a breath, I can't breathe. And then
So,
second of all, the property that you gave me is where the attacker's family lives. I told you guys that.
Ms. Childs, I will follow back up with you, but we did not only perform a lead test, we performed a mold test as well. But I'll follow up with you and ensure that you have a copy of that. But also, if you—
I'm not here to fight. I'm just here to, I'm here to resolve it. I'm not here to fight you guys. I told you guys that.
I understand. So I will follow back up with you after this call, and we can speak again.
Yeah, I just want to be your
hearing
story.
Hearing you, Ms. Childs, I hear you have a health issue as well as a safety issue, correct?
Yes, a health and a safety issue as well. I've been there. This is my third summer.
Okay. Mr. Williams heard you. He said he's going to call you after this meeting.
He's not going to call. They said last time they was going to call. They didn't call.
Okay, will you do me a favor? If they don't call you, will you call me?
Okay. I think I have you. I have the chairman. I have all the board members' email addresses. I will just send you guys another email like I sent last time.
Alrighty. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for listening.
All right. Earl Coles. Earl Coles. Phelps.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm a resident of Greenlee.
What is your name, please?
Cherie Phelps. Cherie Phelps Eel.
Okay, already.
And in 2014, 15, and 16, we sat down with what are those people? Architects. We had meetings just before COVID on developers, and it came to my attention that Bozzuto's supposed to be our developer, and everything that we went over and worked hard for. And I trusted Mr. Gary because he came to several meetings, and now they saying Bozzuto is our developer. Everything we did is off the table. We can't build first. And I'm like, the majority of some of the tenants in the senior building has moved to 901. A lot of the people moved out of 203. Why can't we just combine the building, tear down 203, build it up, move us in? Everybody here are seniors and people with disabilities. I live in 1200. We can't be moving to one spot and move back. It just could be one set move. This is what we talked about. And they was telling us, and these are the developers, I don't even know how they even got in this because they were none of the developers under our radar. I don't know who palms got greased or whatever, but it's not fair because we trusted Mr. Gerd. We trusted that it was going to be a smooth sailing. It's no way that you can't build first. If you got like 80-something, 70-something people in 203, the majority of the seniors is at 901. Just combine the buildings, tear 203 down, rebuild it, and move us in. And then tear down 1200, rebuild it, and move the people over and up over across the street at the extension. You know, we believe I really believed in Mr. Jury, and I was one of his #1 fighters. But for me to hear some of the things that I've been hearing, I don't want to disrespect nobody. I still want to believe that you guys are going to build first. I mean, we just want to be fair. 1200 is a building with disability people with seniors. Also feel like we're living in a halfway house because the building got everybody in this building had their COVID vaccine. Why can't after 7 o'clock our family members come and visit us? Our children work after 7, and they are concerned about this COVID. They want to come and check in. They want to make sure we got everything we needed. But after 7 o'clock, we can't have visits. You know, and to me, that's not fair. The city even about to open. Another concern of mine is like Mr. Teledero, you comes in the building, you upset the seniors, telling them they got to be moved out in 2.5 years to 18 months. These are seniors, and a lot of them don't have family members. They don't even know who you are, and you're supposed to be the senior board commissioner person. We don't know you. Only reason why you're making your appearance now is because it's time for re-election. It's not fair. Yeah, our resident managers, a lot of people don't have physical disabilities. They have mental disabilities. And the way we're talked to and treated, it's not fair. Like they need training on mental health, or just get us some resident managers, property managers that care. May the 18th or 17th, I fell down the steps in my building because the steps were wet. The wet floor sign was holding the second floor door open with a broom. I had to get a hip replacement because due to the fall, the cuff and my hip dislocated. I went to the resident manager to try to, let her know what happened. With no compassion, she didn't care. Told me, what she told me? Don't talk to none of my employees. Talk to the security. The security guard that did the incident report. The incident report is no longer in the book, and he was told don't worry about it. But I literally fell down the steps because the maintenance wasn't trained right. Those wet floor signs are important. That's to let us know to be careful. The reason why I was going down the steps is because my doctor told me try going up and down the steps instead of the elevator. Okay, here I go up and down the steps. I fall. Gotta have a hip replacement, and I'm being treated like I did something wrong. I did nothing wrong. I did nothing wrong. So
Ms. Phelps, let me ask you a question. I hear you saying what you heard. Do you remember the last time that you have been to a community engagement meeting?
Yes, it was in February, just before the COVID, and we was at the enhancement center, and they had 3 boards up with the prospective developers, and they had the properties that they were developing. We supposed to have a follow-up meeting. And I understand with the COVID, that was more important than the follow-up meeting because that was a pandemic. But Pluto was not one of those developers.
Mr. Counsel, Commissioner Counsel, I have Andre on the phone. If anyone from the board or from the public wants to know the meetings that occurred after that, because we've had Greenleaf virtual meetings since that initial meeting. So there have been several.
Yes, you did, but I wasn't able to get on the call because I'm not that computer suave, so I've been learning how to do it. And
so
that's
Commissioner Counsel
here in Greenleaf also. Everybody don't know how to do it.
So what we do also, Commissioner Counsel, just and Commissioner, so that you know, and possibly I don't know why our resident didn't receive a hard copy. We hand out hard copies of also of our whatever we're showing, because many of the individuals that jump onto our virtual platform are on the phone. They're not on their computer. So we hand out hard copies so that they can walk along with us during the actual presentation. And
Mr. Bird, I never received one. I
so
promise.
I don't know why you didn't receive one. I'll
I
get a
don't
copy.
either.
I'll get a copy out to you because that will answer some of your questions. And also, commissioners, as you saw from today, there was a discussion about the replacement units, the one-for-one replacement and those build first units. That's what we were having that discussion during that the brief Greenleaf conversation that we had to bring you up to speed. And there's one other piece to the puzzle where she was talking about why don't we consolidate, and well, that's the idea of the make ready units. That is one of the reasons why we're trying to create the make ready units, so that we can possibly create a build first opportunity on site at the same time.
Okay, I tell you what, Ms. Phelps.
Ready units, are you talking about they come in, we just want to move one time and one time only. We got people with disabilities. We're seniors. Okay, that's good for the families. You know, they got youth and all of this, but people with disabilities and seniors, that's kind of hard.
So commissioners and to the public, this is one of those crossroads where we're hearing exactly what the residents are saying, and with the development partner, we're trying to create a system that will work for everyone. And I don't know whether or not there's going to be one size that fits all that accomplishes everyone's goals and everyone's needs. But you did hear the development partners, EYA, along with Penrose and Bozzuto, because that was a partnership, talk about some of the ideas that they had for build first opportunities, and they're still seeking those, along with the DCHA trying to create some of those opportunities too. The one thing we do know is we can't create a build first opportunity if we have locations where residents are still living on site. So consolidation is one way to look at it in order to build. And I know this is always going to be an uncomfortable situation because relocation is always going to be uncomfortable, and even so, more so in DC, it rises to another level. We totally get that. I understand
But
that.
Mr. Gary, just like Mr. Bill, the commissioner said, the capacity levels, the occupancy levels are at 76. You got less people than that in 203. You just move about 100 or some seniors down the street to 901. If you could combine them two buildings, tear that building down and build it back up, like, what's the problem? I mean, come on now. We just poor. We're not stupid. We understand that we comprehend a lot of things. What is the problem? Because when we go in them buildings that you're talking about, we still got to move back when the new buildings are up. That's even if they allow us to come back in. Because then they're going to holler about credit and some other stuff that we know we don't have. Just like housing, no, we don't have. That's why we're under DC public housing, to have affordable housing and safe housing. I'm not asking you to do nothing extraordinary. I just want you to hold what you said when we was in the Charles Allen, when we was in the enhancement center. Y'all say y'all can find a development. Okay, I don't know what happened to the fire department supposed to be moving, and we use half of the parking lot. I'm just going on what you guys said. Okay, here's another solution. Move the little bit of people in 203 and 1200 because you got developer units, and tear down 203 and rebuild. And we move in, and then you tear down 1200 and rebuild and move in. That's what we mean by build first. We're not talking about making us go somewhere where we don't want to be, and then you got to move from there when the apartment's available. That's if they accept you back. I just want you guys to be honest.
Ms. Phelps, what we will do, we will send you a hard copy of what the plan is, current, up to date, for you to read it. And if you still don't agree with what's going on, please revisit us next month. But I believe if you see what we have, you'll probably get a complete understanding. And what you're saying makes a lot of sense, but there's still some things that we have to finish first. Will you give us that much to give you the hard copy for you to review it?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm going to review it, and the other tenants. And Mr. Taladero, I want you to know personally, I will be running against you for the seniors. So be ready. And you all have a blessed day, and thank you so much for allowing me to talk.
You too. Commissioner Slover?
I think this past testimony sort of brings back to the importance of getting Resolution 1606 formalized and memorialized and put into stone, whatever you want to call it, because this is a consistent concern we hear during these redevelopment projects. And I think what you just heard was a position where a resident doesn't see the development process as resident first driven, but developer first driven. And we need to figure out how to change that narrative as well. Otherwise, we're going to continue to have this conflict time and time again because we don't address it in a meaningful way. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Rhonda Hine. Rhonda Hines. Patricia Malloy.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Good afternoon.
My name is Patricia Malloy. I'm the Resident Council President for Lincoln Heights. I want to thank Mr. Garrett for bringing the Housing Authority into the 21st century. I want to thank Mr. Garrett for his leadership, making some good changes and some bad changes and programs to the Housing Authority. One of the commissioners had asked Mr. Garrett to take 3 days he's been here. There are some things that I would like to say. First of all, when Mr. Garrett first came, he put together town hall meetings. He listened to some of the concerns and issues. We all did not agree, but we were able to make a neutral agreement and decision on things for Lincoln Heights. But my main purpose today is to talk about the cameras. We are one of the properties that was in the settlement. My concern is the cameras. How often are the cameras monitored? Who is monitoring the cameras? Because I was given a package as to the monitoring of the cameras, the officers that was going to be on the property. But my concern and the residents' concern is we have a lot of illegal dumping. We have cameras, the front, the back, the side. We've had a lot of gunshots. We have a lot of illegal parties in our common areas, on our sidewalks, in the middle of the street. This weekend, we had over 200 people in the 500 block of 51st Street having a block party. MPD, they came out, they parked their car, and they let them proceed with the block party. The block party went up to 3 in the morning. Not one time did I see a Housing Authority police car. Not one time did MPD get out of their car. We are beginning to have more and more parties throughout our property, but we have cameras. But no one can tell me, and I've asked this question through emails, who is monitoring the cameras that's on our property? No one can tell me that. But it's
Director, your mic is muted.
I'm sorry, and I think we lost Ms. Malloy. I don't know. She probably has some more questions, but I know Chief Maupin is on, and he can just attest to how the cameras are monitored and some of the success that we've actually had with the cameras to date.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. The margins are
the development.
Ms. Malloy?
Yes.
Oh, so you know what, Chief, let Ms. Malloy finish she's back. So let her finish her questions and comments, and then we'll answer at the end.
Our development, the offsite is going on smoothly. And I also want to let Mr. Garrett know that I had the opportunity to visit client placement last Wednesday, Lincoln Heights residents for the past 3 weeks. We are having our meetings for the vouchers. The level of respect, the patience that the staff have shown to the Lincoln Heights residents, and the gentleman named John, he was extraordinary towards us. He asked us if we needed water, anything that will make us comfortable. And I want to say thank you to him. I also want to say thank you to Sheriff Smith and her team. Our residents were treated with respect. And I would really like for our office to look like 1133 with the new machine that you have. It's a warm environment. And I just want to say, Mr. Garrett, I know you have a lot of concerns, a lot of issues. Continue to be the person that you are. And I want your management team and your senior team to continue to have an open mind. And I can reach out to some of your senior staff, and they do respond back to me with, it might not be an answer that I want to hear, but they do respond back to me. And I would just want to say thank you to them, and they know who they are. Mr. Williams, Mr. McQueen, Mr. Harris, Mr. Pugh, and there's some others. It's more than just them. And I want to say thank you to Commissioner Council, because you are always there to listen. You don't comment all the time, but you do listen. And I just want to say thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Malloy. Commissioner Council, is it okay if Chief Moffitt just addresses the monitoring of the cameras? Okay.
Good, Chief Moffitt.
Hey, well, good afternoon, and good afternoon to you, Ms. Malloy.
Good afternoon.
I heard you say that no one can answer your question about who's monitoring the cameras. So that's an easy answer. We have security personnel that monitor the cameras on every shift. Now they monitor 10 to 12 different properties. So it's not like they're always looking at Lincoln Heights. Lincoln Heights is up a lot, because when I go past there, when it's not up, a lot of times I'll pull Lincoln Heights up just to see what's going on. But the cameras, they work over there, and there are a lot of cameras. I know if you noticed that there, matter of fact, there are 2 servers full of cameras at Lincoln Heights that they monitor.
True.
And one thing I can say about you, when we do a good job, you're the first person to say we do a good job. But when you don't see us, you're the first person to say you don't see us also. So you know it's a mixture of what's going on over there. You know, with the summer months coming up, getting a lot of more people hanging out, so we're trying to address that. We were out there with MPD with that particular party. We had several parties going on all over the city that particular night. And we're part of a FaceTime group, or actually it's another group with the city who addresses all the pop-up parties that occur. You know, a lot of times you don't have prior notice of those events, so when they pop up, you got to try to stop them before they get started. Once you get 200 or so people, they're hard to address, and all we try to do is sit back and make sure it's no criminal issues. You can't really disperse 200 some people with 3 or 4 officers. So we always try to do, once we get intel that something's going to start, you might have seen us before, we'll get out there and try to make sure they don't get started. Did that address you, what you need to know, Ms. Malloy?
Yes and no. What about the illegal dumping? Because I have spoken to MPD, and they supposed to send a unit out here, because it doesn't make any sense that even from the parties, there's so much trash that on Mondays, the little bit of staff that we do have to take 3 or 4 hours to clean up liquor bottles, broken glass, and everything else.
Yeah, I think didn't I send you a request of exactly where they were dumping at? Because we haven't seen anything on the cameras about, with the dumping.
Where they are dumping, the manager have pictures of where they are dumping. I sent you the pictures where the dumpster by my house is full. The last time we talked, someone must be renovating a daycare, and they dumped 15 to 20 cars and bicycles and everything right by the dumpster. We only get bulk trash pickup maybe twice a week. And, it's not fair to us if we have cameras that, I thought that you were supposed to hire extra officers to monitor the cameras. That's my concern right now is we have nowhere to put our trash. We have to put our trash on the outside of the dumpsters. I hear what you're saying. I really hear what you're saying. And with the gathering, we don't know who's having a party until they wake you up at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. And when you look out your window, you got cars. They have to block. The police had to literally stop cars from coming because the people had just taken over the street, and everybody had on sweat hoods. Yeah, I know it's getting warm, and I know it's gonna get worse. But it's gonna take somebody really getting hurt for something to really come into play. What's the purpose of having the cameras? I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that one out. And this
Okay,
to the
let's
point
do
now,
this.
I leave
Ms.
home on
Malloy.
weekends. Because I don't want to hear it. Yes.
Ms. Malloy, let's do this. Chief Marpin, is it some way that you can probably get somewhat of a task force within your agency and you all figure something out to a plan for the summer to deal with the illegal dumping as well as the loitering? The mayor's getting ready to open things up, so I think we need to join in with her. And if we have that extra hand, we need to literally put them on there. And basically, the legal dumping is on just about every site and it's done at night. The daytime, they're not going to do anything. So maybe you can kind of thicken the force up from 12 to 6 a.m. in the morning if you can. Hopefully it doesn't require overtime, but just within a regular scheduling. Let's do that. Let's do that. And if you're ready to roll it out within the next 30 days when we have our BOC, we'll literally give some time for you to actually roll it out to us at the BOC, and then we'll put it on the website. Would that be fair?
Mr. Counsel, I can't promise you anything like that. There are no additional officers to create a task force. We can use the officers we do have a power shift group that works until 2 in the morning. We can increase their hours, make them come in a little bit later, work a little bit earlier, work a little bit later into the morning. And that may be able to help address that issue with the illegal dumping. I know that's a major concern with some of the properties, but a more important concern is violence that occurs that's going to occur with the summer months. So we want them to target violent crimes, before they concentrate too much on property crimes. But we'll certainly address Ms. Malloy's concern.
I just want to make you all aware, because with the wind on and it's blowing trash everywhere, and someone come through the property, first thing they're gonna say is staff is not cleaning the property. But I do know Mr. Spriggs have pictures, and people are dumping tree branches, tires in our parking lots. But my main concern is the monitoring of the cameras. How often are they monitored? Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Ms. Malloy. Deborah Frazier. Deborah Frazier. Ms. Tate. Ms. Tate. Ms. Johnson. Daniel? Ms. Curtis?
Yeah, I'm here.
Daniel?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Council. Thank you, everyone. My name is Daniel Lupiello. I work with Empower DC. I have a couple of questions and actually a follow-up question for Director Garrett because it wasn't answered when Detrice asked this, but right now, and I think this is, if the board doesn't know this, they should. Right now, the Office of Planning is seeking a zoning change for Berry Farm. They want to essentially make it, or what would result from this zoning change is that the developers would not have to file any sort of binding development agreement, a PUD. So in the absence, if that is voted on, there was a hearing last Monday that was postponed to wait for the council to finalize their vote on the comprehensive plan. So it is in front of the zoning commission currently. But I guess my question is, what will hold the developers to develop, the amount of units that they've said that they promise if there's no sort of binding agreement, there's no PUD, what we understand is that there'll be 104 units built in this first phase. But after that, I don't know how much more is planned for. It seems that the plan kind of slows down after that. And even those 104 units will not, my understanding, will not be all for Berry Farm residents. So if we could get an understanding of how are we going to get the developers to deliver on not just what they've been saying, but what this housing authority has been saying is going to happen now for over a decade.
So Daniel, thanks for the question. There are several documents which have to be created, and that's including a revitalization plan along with the master developer agreement, which identifies all those things that have been agreed upon. And that's where you would find the commitment from the housing authority, but also not only the housing authority, but also the commitment from the development team.
And Mr. Garrett, that is the agreement that we've had with the developer, is to make sure that we put the 380 units that will be replaced on site as part of the master development agreement.
Yes.
So can I make a comment on that? I can't help myself. Part of the problem is the timing and the sequencing of those units. And so what we see is parcel after parcel get developed, all Arthur Capper Carrollsburg, and 15 years later, a significant portion of those replacement units have not been rebuilt, while many, many other units have been. And so one of the concerns that I have as the advocate representative is, where in the queue are these 380 units? Are they in the front? Are they in the middle? Are they in the back? And so when you say there's this master development plan, who's holding the feet to the fire? Where's the timeline? When are these units going to be delivered? Because all we have is phase one.
So Commissioner Slover, I appreciate the question. And I think that was something that we wanted to continue our conversation on the Berry Farm presentation, which we didn't get through. And that was the bulk of it. Those questions right there, we knew were going to come up, and we wanted to be able to discuss it with you and the board as a whole. So that's why we set up a second.
No, I understand that, Mr. Garrett, but we're a decade.
So that was going to give you what I'm saying. I was
this.
trying to finish my answer. I was just trying to finish my answer. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I think the frustration you're seeing from people, and from myself included, is that we're a decade into this project, and the fact that we don't have still that timeline readily available, the sequencing and when these units are going to be delivered, you continue to get this frustration. And so it doesn't exist. To the best of my knowledge, I've never seen it.
Right. So we're going to be able to talk about that a little bit more with the board as we do part 2 of Berry Farm. But the thing I want to say, and you keep reminding us, and I don't have a problem in accepting it, that there's been a decade of this, right? It's nothing I can do about the decade. I can tell you that, in my opinion, we're moving forward with the project. And I know that people are going to disagree exactly how the phasing component works, the number of units. But again, we're committed through our MDA, we're committed with our partner to make sure all those units are rebuilt. And I do not want a repeat of Barry Farm, and I do not want a repeat of Arthur Capper. That's not what we're striving for by any stretch of the imagination. Once those projects get started, as we are with Barry, we want to get those units built as soon as possible. And you know, as from being a developer yourself, you know that sometimes the economics do play a role in that. And we're going to have to be able to upfront manage that and also verbally communicate that to everyone clearly and transparently if there are any bumps in the road as we move forward. But again, I can't, I know I'm responsible for the decade, but I can tell you where we are now and how we're moving forward. So I want to have that opportunity to be able to finish that Barry Farm presentation to you. We also have dates that we're going to be speaking. Again, with any development transaction that we have, commissioners, I need you to know, we are talking and dealing with the residents and stakeholders on a monthly basis. We are talking to them, we are showing them what we have, we're allowing them to ask questions, and those meetings are being recorded if you would like to go back and look at them yourself. And we're creating a direct link to each redevelopment project so that you will be able to go back and see exactly how we progressed.
So I appreciate that answer, but what I see, and what I think a lot of other people see in these redevelopment projects, is that the priority is not with our residents. The priority is with the other components. Things that get the most attention are the other components. Ours are sort of, we have to do this to get to that part. That's the narrative that we need to change. And that's the narrative that needs to switch. And that's just fact. You know, it doesn't take 10 years to do a project in the private sector. It just doesn't take that long.
If I could just add that, you know,
I'm not
what's
expecting
disconcerting about all of this is that the developers and DCHA, for that matter, are taking the position that they just want to push forward and create affordable housing. But for who, right? It's not for the Berry Farm residents, because they're not going to return to these handful of units that will be built in phase one. And then there's no idea when it'll develop. So just for the audience, for the commissioners out there, let's not buy this, you know, altruistic narrative that the developers are trying to create, that's why they need the zoning variance, because they just want to create affordable housing, when in fact, many Berry Farm residents are not going to have the opportunity to return once this is said and done.
And I just have to ask the direct question, why do you think that they're not going to have the opportunity to return? Is it because you don't believe we're going to be able to build the units, or do you think that we're going to turn residents away?
It's
Because we have a
multiple of issues. There's no guaranteed right of return. That brings us back to the 1606 resolution. Time is of the essence. There's many seniors that will just literally will not make it. People will die, right? And then, you know, time, just if we are telling residents, we don't know when you'll return, just hold on, because we've got this great goal of building affordable housing, you know, folks need to move on with their lives, and they'll most likely do that and, you know, not plan for the next 10, 15 years when a unit may be developed for them. So that's the problem with all of this, is that there is no real expectation that this will be delivered in a timely manner where folks will be able to actually enjoy what.
I understand your point, and I cannot roll back 10 years. I can't do that, because I can't roll back those 10 years. But what I can say going forward, it's not going to take another 10 years to get our residents back. And we're totally committed to bringing those residents back. All those residents who want to return, they will have that ability to return to those units that are built on the Barry Farm footprint. That is the goal. That is the only goal that we have. Now, you can say, and I give you all due respect to be able to say, show me. But in saying that to us, we have to come through, and we have to be given the opportunity to do just that. I know in the past you haven't seen it, but what I'm trying to espouse to you right now is that you will see it. You will see those units start to go up. You will see activity. based on what we're doing now. This Barry Farm, although quote unquote, think about this, our transformation plan itself, although it talked about the first 14 distressed properties up front, the transformation plan is a plan for all 41 properties, and it would also include making sure that Barry Farm and the other NCI properties and projects are also built. That's part of the overall transformation plan in of itself of the entire agency, and that is the goal, and that is what we're using to move forward. And again, I understand you're saying, show me, and we will do just that.
But Mr. Garrett, it will take you another 10 years, even if you execute perfectly to finish Berry Farm. You just said it won't take 10 years, but it will. That's the kind of sort of mismessaging that gets us in trouble. And so, at a basic level, this agency needs to formalize Resolution 1606. It's unacceptable that we have not done that yet. And when Daniel says we don't have the right to return, they don't have the right to return.
So I want to say one thing about that, Commissioner Slover, because one thing that wasn't presented to you when the advocate sent that email was that there had been discussions between my team and the advocate team about creating a joint resolution to present to you. And they have been going back and forth. Our guide, hold on, I see you, Commissioner Hoffman, and we didn't get the opportunity. We were preparing a resolution to give to you.
But I know that, Mr. Garrett. I'm
Hold on, no. I just want to say, so there was a joint.
This resolution was written in 2016.
No. What I'm saying, I wasn't here in 2016. What I'm
You've
saying
been
to
here
you,
for 4
Commissioner,
years, and it has
Commissioner
not been memorialized.
Slover, the back and forth. This is not. It's not going to work this way, Commissioner Slover.
Can you let me say one thing, and then I'll be done? I'll be absolutely done. 4 years ago, I approached you, and I said, "Can we get Resolution 1606 memorialized?" And you said, "What's the concern?" And I said, "The concern is it's not actually required. It's not mandated. It's just a resolution. It's not formalized, and it doesn't cover all of our properties." And you said, "You just have to trust me. I will make sure that this happens." Well, we're now 4 years after that. It's still not memorialized. It still doesn't cover all of our properties. And we still have this trust issue. And yes, I understand that you've been working back and forth, and I get all that, but I'm the one who pushed and said, we need to get this out right now. So that's what I'm doing.
Commissioner,
All the time people respond is when we bring stuff up in the public. And so I'm bringing it up in the public for a very particular reason, so that it gets dealt with.
Right.
And just to close up, and this is more in a conversation to the commissioners, this is setting the tone for redevelopments that will come forward, right? Where once again, developers get all the they get all the flowers. Residents just have to wait until something is done. So we should be very careful about moving forward with redevelopments where developers have all the say in this and residents just have to wait. We have to wait because there's a good plan in place.
And let's not forget, and the advocate community has been working with us on our guiding principles that we were able to show to you today. And one of the guiding principles stated 1-for-1 replacement, correct, Daniel? Along with others. And so we were preempted with the resolution that came over to you by the advocates, but we have been working with the advocates as a collective group to develop a resolution that not only would deal with any of the other issues, but also would cover all of our properties within the portfolio for right to return, 1-for-1 replacement, and achieving the best outcome through human capital. So that's what we were actually adding into our resolution that we were going to be presenting to the board.
And that's correct, Director Garrett, and OGC has been directed to formalize that. We have the draft in place, and that will be submitted to the board for review and consideration.
Commissioner Frechecchio, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, just a question for Director Garrett, because I think we did talk about this and we did get briefed as a board about Barry Farm, but there are still, we are advancing phase 1B, but there are still some needs that have to happen with the comprehensive plan before the project can go forward. So when it's referred to that it's a 10-year delay, there are still some key elements that are outside of the control of anybody on this call that impact that sort of timeline. And what the comprehensive plan does is gives us a little bit more certainty for the path ahead, which allows the agency to give a timeline with its development partner. That was my understanding from our presentation that the board received. Am I getting that right? And
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. And one other piece of the caveat that I know we may have forgotten is that we faced some legal impediments during this 10-year period up to this point where we weren't able to do anything and move anything forward. So that did contribute to some of the previous delay. What we foresee in the future is that we won't have that same impediment moving forward, and we can get some things done and accomplished in quick fashion. That's the goal. So, proof is in
That was because the Court of Appeals found that the original plan was not following the comprehensive plan. That's what's written in the order.
Correct. So we can agree on that, but that did delay us. And the goal is for those type of delays not to occur anymore in the future. That's what the transformation plan is all about. And then as I said, prior to Berry Farm originating, there was no quote unquote transformation plan for the organization.
Can I ask a question, Commissioner Counsel? I know this.
Wait, hold on 1 second. Commissioner Hoffman? Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead, Strickland.
You waiting on me, or you want Commissioner Hoffman to go?
No, we're wait. She's been answered. Your
Okay,
turn.
perfect. Okay, no, I know that Commissioner Slover has asked about memorializing 1606. Do we have a plan forward to do that? If we're already doing it, it should be painless to do. You know what I mean? To memorialize it, if that's the intent anyway. Do we have a plan to move forward? I know you say you were working on a joint resolution. When do we plan to see that? Is it coming in front of any of the committees that are meeting in the next couple of weeks? Or what's the rollout plan? And you may have mentioned it before, I just didn't hear it. But I would love to say it. If we're already practicing this, memorializing it should be easy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, memorializing it isn't the issue. What we were also doing with the resolution that we're going to be bringing to, and it probably will come up either late May, early June, hopefully before the next board meeting. What we were also doing was utilizing HUD's Rad protections that and their guidelines and putting that into the actual resolution also. So we actually create a resolution that's a little more robust, and by including some Rad protocols, because we want to also encompass Rad properties where rehabilitation may be taking place with the residents' rights. So
that's correct, Director Garrett. As I said, OGC has been working on the draft, and we'll have that available for review.
And I don't want to get the cart before the horse on this, back on this issue again. Are you planning, is there any situation where a property would be exempt from that, from those principles? And if not, yeah, because I'm just preparing you for it. If it is, then we're gonna
this will be covering. What I'm trying to do with this resolution is cover the entire portfolio.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Miss Curtis, you have 3 minutes.
Lydia Curtis? Yes. I am Lydia Curtis, and I am from the Washington Interfaith Network. I just have a couple of clarifying questions. They're directed mostly towards Director Garrett. The first question is, in responding to Mr. Slover about the vacancy rate, you were saying that 800 units would be brought back on, but was there a time frame for that? I kind of missed it. Your answer kind of trailed off, and I didn't hear if there was in what time frame would those 800 units be brought back?
We actually have a plan into HUD that meets about a 12 to 18 month period. I think we actually probably may touch early 23 with all the units coming back on, but that's the goal is to do 12 to 18 months as quickly as we can.
Okay. And did the RAD application, what day did the RAD application for Judiciary House go in?
Andre, do you have the exact date? I think it was within a week of the board meeting that we submitted it at. We submitted it for chap review.
That's
And,
correct.
Okay, did they tell you when they would get back to you? Did HUD, when will
No,
you
ma'am, they
hear?
didn't give us a time frame. It's usually about 4 to 8 weeks on the initial response.
Okay. And when is the next community engagement around RAD at the Judiciary House?
Andre, do we have a date for that? We try to keep them every single month. I don't know if we put a date on the calendar for June yet.
And do you know how many you had before the application went in?
Yeah, we had that in a presentation, actually. Andre, do you have that off the top of your head? Because those actual engagements started well before, even well before COVID hit. But I don't know, Andre, I don't have it off the top, honestly.
Yeah, we had at least three prior to submission of the application.
But we had more, but we actually had more. What I'm trying to say, we had more prior to COVID, leading up to COVID. We had those meetings, and then we tailed off during COVID and came back and had additional judiciary meetings.
Right, there were 3 meetings in FY21.
Just in 21, right?
Right.
Okay.
And your plan is to have one every month?
Yeah, engaged, because one reason we need to have one in every month to just go over is because we're still doing work there with the district dollars. So we're doing renovation and work on units now as we speak going forward. And we're also doing other capital improvement with district dollars. So anytime you're doing that type of renovation to a building, you want to keep in close contact with those residents. So we're going to continue to meet with them even while we're processing or having the RAD application processed by HUD and go through all of that particular timeline with financial documents and identifying equity investors and all those things that we have to do.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Our next is Patricia Bishop.
Good evening, Commissioners. Tyrone Garrett. I appreciate y'all having the time to hear me out. Back in 2019, at an ANC meeting, I asked Tyrone Garrett about the vents that are located in the halls and connected to the bathrooms of every apartment at 203 to be cleaned professionally. I once again, just last week, asked about that same thing being taken care of. He implied that I refuse to let people in with filters for units. I don't have an air conditioner unit that needs a filter. I have window air conditioners. He doesn't know the property. And to state that, if though I refuse to let somebody in to put a filter on a furnace for the air to run and collect the dust or dirt, that's not respectful of me. When I refused to let somebody in was during the pandemic because I am a high health risk. They wanted to just come in and put a smoke alarm up in my unit. I brought that also up at the commissioner board meeting. I got so tired of it with one of the contractors for the alarm company at my door, threatened that the next time he come to my door, he's bringing the police. If though I was going to be placed under arrest, I had enough. My pressure had went up, my heart started pounding. When I was contacted again by Commissioner Counselor and the resident manager, Ms. Havel, we came to a situation, that conclusion, that if this person will cover up from head to toe, including an industrial mask, so that nothing that he brought in from outside of my apartment would affect me or my aides, do what he had to do with the alarm and go back out. That was the only time that I refused a housing person to come in during this pandemic, which the mayor had already stated for us to remain at home with the people that we live with or our healthcare provider, which is the aide. he continues to throw out about his education and his degrees. If though we're not smart enough to know when we're being disrespected by Tyrone Garrett at an ANC meeting.
So Commissioners, Ms. Bishop, I'm going to take umbrage with that. No one knows what I have. And I never mention it, and I don't mention it on purpose. And we can go back to that ANC meeting, and I have staff on the line that participated in that call. I never, ever, and have never, and will never speak with any type of disrespect to any resident at any point in time. That is not who I, that is not, let me finish. That is not who I am. That is not who I am that is not, Ms. Bishop, I respect you and you allow. Okay, I'm just saying, Ms. Bishop, I'm just trying to say to you that, there are certain things that I will push back on. And I'm just trying to explain to you that that is not who I am as a person. And I would never do that. And I don't mention anything about my background at that level.
Mr. Tyrone Garrett, you mentioned about your degrees in real estate and other businesses that you are.
No, I explained about my experience, not my education, ma'am, my experience and how other transactions are done, to give you an example, to give everyone an example of what it actually looks like. So just let you know that we're not straying far from the reservation with some of the things that we're actually talking about.
Okay, Mr. Garrett, can I finish speaking?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Back to the problem at hand. These filters, I don't have an air conditioner for these filters. What I've asked for in the past was for these vents that are connected in the hallway and in people's bathroom be professionally cleaned, not taking down the covers and clean it and paint it off. A company to come in and suck this stuff out that has been here for more than the years that I have been here. Another problem that I have is understanding these trash cans that was removed off the Greenleaf housing property and placed here for years, that is a rat home. Also, this heating air / dumpster thing that was built out here in the front yard right at the door of the building in people's apartments, windows, kitchen and balcony areas, what is coming up out of there? Those holes that is located on those dumpsters have also will become a home for the rats and the mice that are running around. Please consider doing much better with the projects that y'all invent and come up with for the 203 property as we continue to fight for our lives. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Bishop. Dana Walker. Dana Walker.
Hi, good day to everyone on this call. My name is Dana Walker. I'm the president of the Greenleaf Gardens Resident Council, Extension and Additions. I'm calling, well, I wanted to speak today regarding a needs assessment that was sent in a text message to the residents of, I know at least the Greenleaf properties. That text said they need to do a needs assessment, fill it out, and if you do not want to participate, still send it to your property management office. What bothers me the most is that that particular assessment asks questions that, to me, would violate a whole lot of laws. The HIPAA law, there's no Privacy Act involved, and there's no way to opt out. When I saw the document, when I saw the text, I asked someone in resident services not to to actually resend that text and to tell the residents to disregard it. The next night, I received the actual document via email. When I saw the questions that were on there, I was truly appalled. It appeared that the housing authority says they want to get these needs assessments from residents. And the information they asked for, they asked about expungement, mental health, all of these types of things. And what was most frightening is the heading of this particular assessment. It says, what do we need to do to help you prepare to move? I got calls from seniors. I got calls from a lot of residents, especially the seniors, which bothered me the most is because some of them were in tears because they said, well, we were promised we're not going to be moving yet. They're asking about questions I can't give an answer to. They're telling me, I told them, do not fill it out because we don't know how that information is going to be used. It's not in that document. Basically, it appears that the housing authority may need to do it for some reason, but they're not letting us know why. The resident leadership has we don't get to partake in these things, how you dispense information to or request information from residents. Would you want your grandmother to get a notice like that in the mail, and they're frightened and saying, what do I do with this? And if we tell them not to sign it, they think they have to sign it because it has to go to their property management office. When I sent an email to Office of Resident Services, primarily Mr. Byron Pugh, they basically ignored what I said. And it appears that if you're going to be doing this redevelopment, that's what's startling most people even more so. You tell them to go send something like that, all that personal information to their property manager. And then what makes it even worse, there's no way to opt out of it. And it's 2 sheets of paper. The questions are in one, and the person's signature, which authorized the housing authority to do as they please with their information. No privacy statement. They did not give me that. They just said, we're going to do what we want. I don't like it, and I'm really upset about it. And this leads me to something else about the trust of this redevelopment for Greenleaf. We've had several meetings with different people. The GRAD, which is the Greenleaf Redevelopment Resident Advisory Group, we had a meeting with DCHA and your developers, your proposed developers. They told us lies. They keep telling about this bill first. I'm going to wrap it up here. I'm going to tell you this. Immediately after that meeting, one of the principals of Westminster Church came to my house and told me that someone from Bozzuto said that they were having a meeting with DCHA and some of the residents. This person said, Ms. Walker, I thought it might be you. And it was right. She told me that she told them to tell them that Westminster is off the table. You know what she said Bozzuto said to them? No, we're going to tell them that we're still working on it. And this is the spin that you're giving to everybody, DCHA, particularly Mr. Garrett. You're telling everyone, bill first. You're grasping at straws all the way. Stop playing with our lives. That's what I'm concerned about. When I say we're going to redevelop ourselves, I meant that. I still mean it because there's no trust, no faith in anything you'll do, because anytime your developers go try to talk to the ANCs behind our back, and ANCs come in, certain ANCs will tell me, Ms. Walker, we had a meeting. They said this, they said that. You're confusing everybody, but you're lying mostly to the residents. That's all I have to say.
Who wants to take this, Tyrone or Greg?
No, I have it. I have it along with Mr. Pugh. One thing I just want to say is that we talked about the human capital component a few weeks ago. And we also talked about the dollar amount that we were putting towards the human capital. The human capital program involves a self-sufficiency and assessment that Aaron can go into, maybe just to touch on it just a little bit more. But remember, the process that we're using, we're not doing this alone. We're not doing this as something that DCHA is just creating on its own and going forth. Remember, we engaged through an MOU and through a partnership with Urban Institute, who has vetted our process. Now, remember, Urban Institute is that national organization, has worked with other housing authorities in similar situations. So we're not doing things in a vacuum. We're following a particular process. Now, if that process, as vetted by Urban Institute and Sue and her team, isn't working, then we'll go back to Sue and we'll say, hey, we need to revise our plan and our process because residents were taking it back and they didn't appreciate the way it was rolled out, or they didn't appreciate some of the questions that were actually asked. But that is part of the human capital component, to find out exactly what the needs of the residents actually are directly from them. So maybe there's some steps we need to take to re-engage with them, let them know what the purpose of the survey is. That had been done. Those conversations were had. But, you know, it never stops us from doing it over and over and over again until every resident clearly understands what we're doing. But again, we did not do this on our own. We did have assistance and we did have a group vet so we could be validated. And the other part to the puzzle is in terms of what's been represented to the ANC and what's represented to the residents, because remember, the ANC meeting is a public meeting at the same time where members of the public can participate. And from the slide that we were able to show you today, there's a cross-pollination of organizations that we are touching base with, meaning that there are residents that sit on the ANC. No, not sit on the ANC. There are residents that are on the ANC committee with other ANC members. There are, resident-only committees, and everyone is getting the same information. We are not tailoring our presentations with our development partners to one group or the other. It is one presentation so that everyone is getting the same exact information. Now, as far as whatever someone from Bozzuto has conveyed or said to someone else, I'm not party to that conversation, and I didn't condone that. And so I'll dig down and find out if that was actually said or what the context was. But as you know, and as was presented to you today, commissioners, there are still about 99 Westminster units that the development team still believes we may be able to access as part of our overall project and plan. So we're going to continue to pursue that until it's not available to us anymore. So that was what was presented not only to the ANC, that's also what's been presented to the public as a whole, residents as a whole, and also to you. We're not changing up our presentations for anyone, and I don't want you to think that at all.
Well, as an add-on to that, Director Garrett, we are very protective, as you know, of personally identifiable information. So we'll take a look at this form and see exactly what needs to be changed and what needs to be added or deleted.
If anything, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, and this is Ms. Walker again. Mr. Garrett, I understand what you're saying, but a lot of those meetings you were not in the DCH wasn't included. What I mean, those conversations that your proposed developers have behind the scenes without you all included. And as far as the privacy statement for residents in public housing, Urban Institute, I've worked with them before, and when they had a program over here in Greenleaf, it was for you. They had privacy statements. They had people. They know better. And then when you say you've worked with these partners, why is the resident leadership always left out? Because these are the residents come to us. They question us, like, why don't you know anything? And it always goes back to they look at it like DCHA doesn't even respect y'all. And that's really bad because we can't support the agency when they disregard us. The residents are going to come to us. They're going to say, do I sign this? They're nervous. They're scared. They're crying. And we can't get someone to just say, what is this information going to be used for? So you don't have community input when you do these things. That needs assessment, y'all done they've done lots of needs assessments, but do they actually work? They don't come into the community and do the things you say, but you're talking about moving. During the time we're talking about redevelopment, and you're telling them it's a couple of years away, but you're putting out this needs assessment now, you're upsetting people. I used to wonder why people said there was a correlation between poverty and high blood pressure. I understand now. People are always threatened with possible displacement. And they feel like I have to do this survey because if I don't, something may happen at my housing. You should be ashamed of yourself. When you don't connect with us, don't go, listen, do not go around spreading to everyone you have serious resident engagement because it starts with the resident leadership. You keep ignoring us, you're going to get a real backlash. And I'm going to make sure everyone knows that the agency is not telling the truth when they have true community input. That's why I don't have faith in what you're talking about with this Greenleaf redevelopment. Yeah, your proposed developers, yeah, they may call and try to figure out how they want to use our ideas of how to do things. I'm going to say this. People don't like to hear when people say people lie. I'm just saying it's a whole bunch of untruths. We don't trust your process, and we never will. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
And thank you. I really, truly appreciate your candor. Truly do. And on behalf of, myself personally, I don't create misnomers and I don't mislead people. I don't lie.
Yes, you do.
Okay. And so that's somebody, that's your personal opinion, and I could have that same opinion about others, but I don't, because that's not the way you accomplish anything. That's not how I use my strength. I use my strength to try and ensure that the residents are represented. And I know Byron Pugh is on. He represents our ORS department, who was working on the surveys. And I just want him to give a few comments in reference to how we engaged and the steps that we actually did take. And I know, commissioners, this is always becomes very, very difficult, and it becomes the he say, she say. We say that we did something, and then residents say that we did not. So it's very uncomfortable, because I'm not saying that we are perfect by any stretch of the imagination, and that there's not ways to improve. So this is not hearing this. This is a way for us to actually figure out, did we drop the ball in some regards on our engagement? But at no point in time is the DCHA going to mislead anyone. Byron?
Good afternoon, commissioners. Thank you, Director Garrett. I guess the first part of the needs assessment process that I'll begin with is the document was reviewed by our Office of General Counsel. We started the process of developing the needs assessment quite some time ago, and it was approved potentially prior to our new head of OGC being in the office. So we will make sure that he has a copy and his team has a copy of the document that went out, but it was sent to his office for review before we shared it with the residents.
So Byron, it was approved by OGC at the time, correct?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes. Additionally, we also shared during our initial community engagement meetings, Director Garrett, where you were the facilitator of the information to the residents, that we would be trying to capture their needs in preparation of the transformation properties being affected by redevelopment. We needed to get ahead of that and get that information potentially years ahead of redevelopment happening at a particular property, because as you heard from the testimony earlier with the woman who was able to purchase a home through the home ownership program, it took her 2 years to get to a place where she was ready to become a homeowner. So we need to know as early as possible what our residents are interested in receiving as far as supports and preparation for redevelopment. And even in the absence of redevelopment, ORS needs to conduct needs assessments of our residents so that we can find out what services and programs they would most benefit from, as opposed to the alternative, which is us making those decisions.
And one question, Byron, just to get some clarity. Our human capital approach isn't just for transformational properties, the first 14, or properties that might be experiencing rehabilitation. Our human capital component and our surveys are for all of our properties at the end of the day, correct?
That's correct. Yes. I will also add briefly that during the follow-up community engagement meetings that OCP scheduled, I presented to residents of Greenleaf that attended that meeting that we would be conducting a needs assessment. It was one of the slides in that presentation. Our Office of Customer Engagement sent out a robotext and robocall to all of our residents at properties that were going to be receiving the needs assessment, informing them that it was coming, and provided my name and contact number to call me with any questions or concerns. We didn't want them not to have a DCHA person that they could directly contact. It was in fact my cell phone, so it wasn't going to a landline that or an automated line where someone would have to access the message and return the call. And we did get quite a number of calls asking questions, which I provided the responses to and made them aware more thoroughly of what the needs assessment was purposed for, and that they weren't required to complete it. The reason we did ask that they provide us with a signature, even if they were not going to complete it, is that we were hoping to track who completed and who didn't, so we didn't consistently revisit that particular resident to find out why they didn't complete the needs assessment or if they had received it. So we knew we were going to need to do follow-up, and we didn't want to repeatedly follow up with residents just because we didn't have a response if their plan was not to complete it. So if they turned in a blank document or just X'd it off and signed it or said they didn't intend to complete it, we would know not to revisit them to find out where their needs assessment was, as opposed to them simply not returning it, because we didn't want to repeatedly make calls, door knock, and send them robotext to get that information from.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
And Byron, if you send me the
my
form.
question that I have to ask to hear what
I'm sorry,
you all
go
are
ahead.
saying, and Ms. Walker, are you still on the line? Okay. My question is to see that that was
Bishop
given
on
out.
line.
No, okay, Miss Bishop. With that need assessment, did you all bother to reach back out to the agency to let them know that they found it to be uncomfortable?
Yes, Ms. Walker emailed everyone about it.
When you
Right.
say everyone, are you speaking of the agency,
The ones who
DCHA?
sent it out, I believe it was the gentleman who sent it out, or everybody that was involved in it. Because I'm just speaking off and what I know. She said she sent the email back in response to this coming out to us, asking them to
Mr.
retrieve
Pugh,
that.
did you receive anything from anybody from Greenleaf Assessment saying how uncomfortable they were?
No, I did not.
No, I'm asking Mr. Pugh, did he receive anything?
So Commissioner Counsel, this is Larry. We did receive an email from Ms. Walker, but we also received very positive feedback from other residents about the fact that they got the needs assessment and they were responding to the needs assessment. So yes, we did receive an email from Ms. Walker. I personally had a discussion with Ms. Walker about the needs assessment as well. And then Mr. Pugh actually sent her a copy of it so that she can review it as well.
And Byron, can you just give us a snapshot of what some of the comments that you or questions that were asked by residents when they
I
called you
would like to
directly?
continue to speak, please, about this assessment's need. They had all the questions on one paper. On the second paper, it was asking people to sign it and agree and date it. That is not a legal document for a separate signature to be placed on a separate sheet of paper. After you have completed this, whether you completed it or not, they still ask for your signature. That's not how anything should be done. I have the copy. Kenny, I will send you, if you do not have a picture of this, I will send it to you just so that you can better understand why we feel this way about this document. I don't care how many people gave a good comment about it. They are not qualified to assess anybody's anxiety and other things that they have up here on this paper. That's under our mental health.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Bishop.
Thank you.
Thank you. Larry?
No, I don't have any further comments.
Okay.
Byron, if you can forward it to me, I'll personally take a look at it before.
Okay. With that being said, that concludes our BOC. Our next one will be held on Wednesday, June 9th, 2019 at 1 o'clock by WebEx. Those of you that are participating by WebEx or by the our website can be reached at www.dchousing.org. Everyone have a pleasant and safe evening.
Thank you.
You as well.
Yeah.
Have a good evening.
Have a great week.